1, I think. And our first order of business is Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you very much. The next item is open forum, and although I'll open it to the board first, if you do have something you want to say for open forum, this is an opportunity. Oh, my mic, thank you. Open forum. Go to the podium, name and address, and it's only for items that are that you want brought before the board at a future meeting. We can't deliberate on anything tonight. I'm going to start it by saying Rainey is not here, as you can see. He had a family event that he needed to attend to, and I think it had to do with a birthday. And I wanted to congratulate all the winners, including Fernando and I, on Saturday. Of course, we were running out of pose, so
yeah. It was easy.
It was easy.
It's the only way to run.
And a huge thank you for all the people who ran, whether you ran or not, won or not. So, anybody else on the board have anything for Brian?
Yeah, just to echo what you said, we put out the bat signal for the planning board meticulously, and we went from 0 to 6 candidates immediately, and that's the kind of involvement we have in town. And I sincerely appreciate everyone who ran but didn't win, and I hope you'll continue to remain involved in the boards and committees in town. We need that sort of talent. We have it, and we really appreciate it. Just one administrative item, Madam Chair, I just wanted to follow up. I attended a Plymouth County meeting last week. It was an informal collaboration with the commissioners, the elected officials, and other select board members from across the county. And a couple of things that were discussed were potential group savings opportunities, as well as educational opportunities for cybersecurity. And I just wanted to report to the town, through its IT department, both for the town and the school department, are participating in that opportunity, and we're the only town in the county who have both the schools and the town participating. So,
Yay, Duxbury.
yeah. And as to the savings opportunities, I've been in touch with the town manager about pursuing those to make sure we're squeezing every penny.
Good.
So, thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Anybody else on the board have anything for open forum? Amy?
So I had received an email. This is the beginning of the evaluation for the town manager, and tonight we're talking about goals. And there seems to be a bit of an issue. I had received the Hello Teams with what was the evaluation form for the town manager. I went in to look at it, and I think there's a bit of a concern that perhaps it was a past draft, or there was some language that indicated that we would be voting on that policy this evening. And I spent quite a bit of time doing some clarification to the document to make it what I feel is importantly more user-friendly for us, and allows us to measure the town manager's progress in a more effective way. While I understand that I had missed a meeting, and that document, although we're not sure if that is the document, was previously voted on, what I would just ask is that my edits be distributed to the board, so that you could all look at them. And I think you might agree that some of the clarifications make the document a little bit more user-friendly for us and for the staff. So if we could consider that, and kind of, we haven't started the evaluation process. I don't want to put this off to, because we haven't started it. And if this was the chance to make some changes that would be helpful, I would just like to.
Can you, the only request is, let's make sure that you've edited the right document, all right? So, Jeannie, looks like Hello Team has sent a draft. The document says, please vote on the document below, right? The select board vote on it.
There's some language in there that indicated, it says, I recommend that the board formally vote to approve the process below.
That's part of the process that we agreed to. So that's, the process is in the document as well as the evaluation.
Okay, we're getting really confused
Okay,
now.
so all I'm asking is that we distribute my edits to the board
But-
for your consideration at a meeting where we can put it on the agenda, because I don't
When
want to
did you-
make a discussion when we're under open forum.
It's,
Get this, Amy.
It came from Jeannie, it came from.
you might have to take,
At 9
It's just-
this morning. Hello,
it's,
Can I do a point of clarification?
point of,
Yes.
It's just not on the agenda.
yeah, no.
Yes.
So as a point of clarification, the town manager's employment contract requires that all changes to the performance evaluation process and document are mutually agreed to. So we did launch the performance evaluation effort today. It began today. There is a part of our discussion was a time frame in order to meet the deadlines of those time frames, and in order to achieve the enhancements that we that the board voted, any changes to that performance evaluation would have to be further vetted through the town manager, and that would extend the process that we are currently in order to, and all of the performance evaluations for all personnel plan employees are aligned with that timeframe. Just so you know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right.
Without belaboring, if we could agree to have this distributed, one of the issues I have in here is with the actual timeline. So I think for all of your information, if we could just look at this at
You send-
another meeting, that would be.
Why don't you check with Fernando? You can, be.
Well, Brian and I worked on this, right?
No,
We
be
worked
certain
with
that
Jean.
it was the same document that came out.
That's unclear.
Okay, could you do that, Fernando, later? And let Amy know, and if it's the same document that we voted on last week, then,
We'll have to go back to the drawing board. We'll have to go back and
Or-
meet with Renee and.
or not, we can make that decision. If
Well-
Amy could send her edits into Nancy, and you could distribute it to us.
Thank you. It's already been sent in. Thank
Okay.
you.
I'm not finding. Okay. Anybody in the audience have anything for open forum? No. Okay, great. So the next business is the swearing in of elected officials. Susan?
If you'd all like to step up front so you can face the audience.
Oops.
Oh, no, that's way too much stuff. That's right.
Touch your face with that.
A crowd.
Not yet. I think you'll probably be okay. No, he's being sworn in for this. That was not the question. All right, if you please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I. Please state your name. Do solemnly swear. That I will faithfully and impartially. Perform all of the duties. Imposed upon me. As a member of. And please state the board to which you are elected. For the town of Duxbury. According to the laws of the Commonwealth. And the bylaws of the town. So help me God. Congratulations.
All right. Congratulations.
You know, my husband's on the planning board, so if you need any guidance. You might not be the guy. But this is what I was
Well done, Cindy.
Get everybody?
Congratulations. Congrats.
Okay. All right, the next order of business. I got a label wrong in my scarf that whole time. What's,
Hey, everybody noticed.
I know.
Hi, Mary, I didn't even say hi to you. Were you behind there the whole time, or did you sneak out?
I just got out of the photo op.
No.
I did
All right,
too.
so the next, yeah, so the next order of business is the reorganization of the select board. And what we're gonna do is, make nominations for chair, vice chair, and clerk. We'll start with chair, because why not?
Madam Chair, just a point of order question. Last year, because I'm the new guy at this, last year Amy mentioned something about moving up or changing positions, or can you just explain that a little bit for me before we vote on anything?
Me?
Anybody?
I'm
Whoever
happy,
is-
there's been a tradition of
Yeah.
a rotation.
Yes.
So when
Okay.
there were three members, it was a natural rotation.
Yeah.
When we expanded to 5, there was some, discussion, but I think we all felt that it was important to kind of try to continue the rotation, although it's not as easy now as it was when there was 3, but it can kind of still be. So that is the tradition in which we had decided to continue with.
Okay, so the thought would be whoever's clerk becomes vice, whoever's vice becomes chair, and then what do the other two do? Do they?
You just hang around at
They
the
just
edges.
hang
sit
out,
back in line?
eat
Get
bonbons.
back in line. So
Okay.
that's why I wanted you to be clerk last year, but
Well, I
Amy
don't-
stepped in, and then,
Well, that's why I wanted to ask.
Yeah,
I wanted
yeah,
to just
yeah.
clarify how that works.
Oh,
So-
I
No,
don't
I
know.
don't think that the clerk has to necessarily step up to vice chair.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I think
Oh,
that,
okay. Well, that's why I was asking.
oh, all right.
I don't know. That's kind of the natural progression. And I think last year, the only reason that happened, because I didn't expect that to really happen, was that because you were the new guy. You were so new, and there were others, the two below. So I don't really know how that happened.
I think that if Brian is interested in being vice chair, then that would be appropriate, because he hasn't served in that position.
Well, he hasn't
or-
served as clerk either. You got to kind of
that's
do
true,
the,
too,
you
yeah.
got to read the stuff.
Well, yeah, that's true, but,
You have to know how to
Shellfish.
say shellfish.
Yeah.
yeah, we can say,
Bonus shellfish season.
Season.
well, that's why I'm asking if you have to serve as clerk first.
The
'cause
way it's been
it doesn't seem like
traditionally
that's
done in
exactly how
Dux-
it's worked, so.
It's
Yeah.
the way it's been done in this, in this board. Of
Yeah.
course, with the planning board, we know that wasn't the
Oh, no,
way
I don't,
that
I mean
it,
this board.
so.
Okay. This is educational for me.
Well, we don't really have a tradition. I
Okay.
mean, it's been
We
sort
can-
of what we've
yeah.
been doing, but we're so new at this as a 5-person board.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
I would like to say that I want to thank Cindy for her leadership over this last year. I think she did a terrific job as chair, and I'm proud to be on this board, and I was proud. I'm always proud, and I was proud of you. I thought you did a great job, so thank you for that.
Here, here.
thank you very much.
And
Great.
in that light, I would like to nominate Mike McGee as chair.
Second,
Okay.
Second.
Thank you
Does
very
anybody
much.
have any other nominations? No? Okay.
do you accept the nomination?
I accept the nomination. Thank you very much.
I think you're running out of here.
Yeah. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Oh,
So then
actually, oh, sorry, go ahead.
well, then we need to do vice chair.
Vice Chair.
Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah,
Oh, good.
right, jumping ahead.
They were, yeah. Vice chair, nominations, please.
I would nominate Amy McNabb as vice chair.
Actually, I will nominate Brian Glennon as Vice Chair.
Boy, here we go, guys. We're
think
breaking
it-
from tradition.
No, it's not tradition at
Well, I
all.
don't know
He
that
missed
it's
his
breaking from
turn.
tradition.
I know, I don't care. It's whatever you guys want.
Yikes. Okay, and you both accept the nominations?
I would be willing to serve. Although I don't expect Mike to be absent very much. Right, Mike?
Try not to.
Yeah, okay. So,
This is weird.
let's, how are we going to do this? Do Amy first and then Brian? Does that seem reasonable?
Yeah.
Okay. And we get seconds for both of them? Or
Yep,
just all
second.
kosher? Okay. All in favor of Amy being our vice president?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And Brian? Okay,
Yeah.
Amy. So
That's
Amy,
democracy in action.
Right.
democracy in action. All right. So then we have clerk.
I'll go ahead and nominate Brian Glennon as clerk.
Second.
Anybody, and any other nominations?
Did you want
No, no, no.
All in favor of Brian Glennon being clerk?
Aye.
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 Okay. We did it, Nancy. Got it?
Great job.
Okay. Do you want me to continue, or do you want to take right over?
No, he can take right over.
Yeah, he takes, he's got the gravel.
He's already grabbing for
He's,
it.
he's,
Get that picture. All right. I don't have to move seats. Yeah, I
Because
know.
this says my name. You don't want to be me.
I thought we were going to do the ceremonial switch of seats.
Oh.
All right.
Is
No, I'm
there such a
kidding.
thing?
No, there isn't. I was just making up.
I mean, I'd be happy to.
is there
You
such
could
a
become
thing?
me.
There could be such a thing.
Well,
could be.
I have an easy one here for our next order of business, a declaration of surplus items by the Harbor Master Department, and we have Jake Emerson here.
Thank you very much. I know you guys have very full agendas, so I appreciate you sneaking this in. I submitted a memo to the board, and I would just respectfully request that the select board declare the following items surplus. These items have come to the end of their useful life with the town and are being replaced this year. They are 3 floats built approximately 1991, 2 16 by 30 foot, 1 12 by 18 foot, and a 1997 21-foot Alcar with easy loader trailer. And as I mentioned, these are all being replaced. They were supported at town meeting 2023. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Does anybody on the board have any questions?
Just briefly, these are materials that would go to any other department, right? I wouldn't imagine that anybody else could use them.
No, they
Yeah.
typically not, but if we declare them as surplus, I believe they still could. But traditionally, they go to auction and then
Okay.
handle that way.
Great. Well, if you can't, or if it's too expensive for you to repair them, we don't want another department
No.
incurring that expense,
No.
so, okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? My only question was that, is these go to auction?
Traditionally, yeah, they go to auction and then the money goes back to the general fund.
Okay, great.
And have you been successful in auction?
So every time we've auctioned something, it's somebody's taken it. Successful means that we don't have to pay for the disposal of it.
That sounds successful
point.
to me.
It's like the Velveteen Rabbit. They've been very much loved. So.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Well, I'm ready for a motion.
Oh, let's see. I don't have the hard
I got
copy.
one here.
All right, thank you. I move to declare as surplus the following: a 1997 21 Alcar vessel and easy loader trailer, a 1991 2 16 by 30 floats, and 1 12 by 18 float, in order to allow these items to be sold, disposed of, auctioned, or donated, all in accordance with General Law, Chapter 40B, the town's rules and regulations, with proceeds to go to the general fund.
Discussion? All in favor?
Need a
Aye.
second?
Oh, I need a second.
Second.
Sorry.
It's a rookie mistake.
I
It's
know.
okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Jake.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Jake.
Jake,
Good luck with the bonus shellfish season.
you can stick around for that if you want.
Yeah. Still doing razor clams. Now we have a discussion regarding health insurance rates by our Human Resources Director, Jeannie Horn.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to recuse myself from this
As
discussion.
am I.
Okay.
Give me a
have
call
to
back.
leave the room.
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
What is, lucky that There's still 3 left.
I know,
Oh.
I know. Good thing we're here.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Jeannie Horn, the Human Resources Director for the town of Duxbury, 7 Buckboard Road. And I'm here to talk to the Select Board members about our renewal for HMO, PPO, basic life insurance, dental insurance rates beginning effective June 1st, 2024, so we can prepare for annual enrollment. Several weeks ago, the insurance committee met with our insurance consultant from Cook & Company and our Blue Cross Blue Shield rep, and we went over the numbers from the past year, and this is part of our annual effort. So this is part of our effort to provide employees, retirees, and their dependents with insurance plan options and education and wellness opportunities and careful management of the retirement of the related plans and expenses. So over the years, we have demonstrated our commitment to long-term health, preventative care, emergency room alternatives such as Blue Care Line, telehealth, urgent care, minute clinics, all of which help contain our overall expenses, especially with relation to health insurance. So as a result of those ongoing efforts, our self-insured medical and pharmacy claims and our annual trends, the Insurance Committee recommends the following effective June 1st, 2024. So we are recommending a 1.5% rate increase for Blue Cross Blue Shield health insurance plans, Network Blue New England, which is the HMO plan, as well as Blue Care Elect PPO. So for these plans, the town pays 75% of the total rate, and employees pay 25%. And for our retirees, it's a 50-50 split. And those rate changes also include some enhancements to the plan that will become effective July 1st of 2024. They include pharmacy clinical programs, such as drug savings review, medical cost avoidance, pharmacy advisor, and the Transform Diabetes Care to support healthier outcomes. Also, the Sempre Health Plan to provide incentive-based co-payment savings for specific chronic conditions that typically have very expensive drugs associated with the treatment of those conditions. And also a fitness reimbursement enhancement, which includes sports activity fees. So that includes town sports, ski passes, sport leagues, race entries, and those kinds of things, which is a nice enhancement. There's another health plan that has been offering those for years, and I think it's something that our employees and their families would really enjoy. We will also have no rate change recommended for our retiree health insurance plans. Those rates are set on a calendar year basis, so those rates will remain unchanged. So that's our MedX2 and our Medicare PPO Blue Freedom RX. Also, no rate change for our Boston Mutual basic life insurance rates, and no rate change for our Delta dental insurance plans. Any questions?
Excellent. Does anybody on the board have questions?
Yeah. A couple of questions. So that the town pays 75% for the employees and 50% for retirees. That's competitive, right? That's we're aligned with the rest of the market, II competitors, towns.
We are. And actually, that was part of our classification and compensation study.
Yep.
So those results yielded a favorable outcome. So we are better than most of our competitive set communities
Is that right?
in terms of our contribution rates.
Okay. And the other question has that fitness reimbursement. Does that mean that if you do a certain amount of fitness or some goals that they track you with, you get, what happens there?
So what happens there is we're self-insured.
Yeah.
And the insurance committee many years ago decided that we would set fitness reimbursement at $300 per calendar year. And that typically included traditional fitness facilities. So they had to have like a strength training component.
Right.
But that has since expanded. So around the time of the pandemic, we changed that plan so that it includes traditional gyms. It also includes web-based fitness memberships like a Peloton. It also includes equipment-based purchases like a Peloton bike. And now it also includes yoga from a certified fitness instructor. They don't have to be associated with a brick and mortar gym. And so you can kind of tailor your fitness needs to whatever works for you.
Right.
So boot camp classes and pickleball would now be
Pickleball.
reimbursable as well if you had a membership somewhere local.
So basically, you just have to demonstrate that you're doing something in terms of fitness, and then you get $300 at the end of the year. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Cindy, do you have any
No,
questions?
I don't.
My first one was the fitness reimbursement, and I think that was answered. But the other one I had was with respect to the self-insured aspect here. I understand that the insurance committee voted on this. How is our trust fund, so to speak, doing in this past year?
That's a great question. I think Mary's prepared to answer that for us.
We'll take that one for you. So part of the conversation that the insurance committee has on a regular basis is taking a look at our health insurance trust fund and taking a look at our claims experience and making sure that our health insurance trust fund contains a sufficient balance to make sure that we are able to provide this benefit to our employees. For the past several years, the town has been very successful in not only having a very healthy demographic, our subscribers to our health insurance plans, in order to keep our claims at a reasonable level, but we've also had very good performance with our health insurance trust fund. Oh, where do you went?
Start again.
So we've been very successful not only with the health of our subscribers, but also with the investment returns that we've seen on the health insurance trust fund in order to maintain a very healthy balance in our trust fund, which happens to sit at currently on just under $8 million, which is, and the health of that fund is often tested in the industry by a liability that's called the IBNR, incurred but not reported number. And so typically a self-insured health insurance trust fund would be measured by 4 to 5 times the IBNR to make sure that you're maintaining a healthy balance, and we exceed that. So the health insurance trust fund is doing very well, which is why the committee has advised and recommended a 1.5% increase on our insurance rates.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you.
And we've been fortunate. I think we looked at the numbers, and I think over the last 5 years, our average, if you look at the increase over the last 5 years, it's been an average of 1.6%. So we're doing better than most in that respect too. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that we are self-insured, so we can, some of the offerings that we deliver are geared specifically for our predicted loss areas, so that we have more ability to affect change around the areas that we would be most concerned about, so we can control our risk more as a self-insured entity than we could as part of a consortium.
Excellent.
Right.
All right.
Shall I read the motion then?
If
Can
you
we see
wouldn't
if
mind.
anybody in the audience has
Oh,
a
does anybody in
question?
the audience have a question? All right. If there's no other questions, I will take a motion.
Yeah, I move that the Select Board accept the proposed group health, life, and dental insurance rates effective June 1st, 2024, as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we can
Thank you,
invite-
Jeannie.
Thank you very much. We can invite our friends back.
Yeah. Oh, thank you very much, Kathy.
Thank you, Kathy.
All right. Move on to a discussion regarding the financial benefits of the Regional Old Colony Communication Center, the ROC, to the town of Duxbury. We have here tonight our retired Chief Kevin Nord and the ROC Director, Joseph Crean. I do want to say at the outset here, I know this was something I raised at a prior meeting in December, and I want to be
Actually
very-
watched it,
Thank you.
so I could get you and Amy's and Brian's questions right.
So, thank you for doing that, because just from looking at the materials, what I wanted, here, the financial breakout is exactly what I wanted, so I'm looking forward to this part. Thank you very much.
I'll start off with, you've obviously introduced the Director Joe Crean, which he's met some of you already. And I asked Chief Radin to be here, obviously, too. There seems to be some confusion at times when, you refer to the ROC, it's the fire department. It's not. If you recall, back when I retired, July 2021, we purposely moved the ROC out from underneath the fire department's operating system oversight, and it became its own department, of which Director Mahoney at the time was the director. Mike has left us back in the fall. I came in as interim director and served from November 1st to February 5th, right, Joe? That's correct. Yeah. And so that's kind of been the change in the chain of command. You might remember Joe was actually the deputy director under the fire department umbrella, if you will, and you left a few months before that to go to State 911. So Joe was the likely candidate, the great pick to come back and run the ROC, as I have now stepped down. But I wanted to come here and brief you because I was the fortunate one, I guess, that wrote the budget for fiscal year '25. And I wrote that budget a little bit under duress. It needed to be done quite rapidly. A lot of the data wasn't quite available at the time. And so it's kind of a work in progress, and we got through this year. And as you well know, this is the first year with the legislative approval of it becoming an enterprise account, which I'll get into a little bit more, which is going to be a much easier budget to read, more transparency for not only this community, but the other communities we serve. And so I look forward to going over that with you. I did want to do just a quick overview before we ran through the presentation paperwork that I know Nancy will throw up there for us. Chief Clancy and I discussed this back in 2010. State 911 paid for a study. There was 16 towns, it might have been 18, to discuss regionalization. It took a year for that study to take place. And it was basically police and fire representation in the room, some monthly meetings. They went out and did an analysis of each of the towns. And they really kind of put a roadmap together for those that wanted to do that. The regionalization concept, which is Regional Emergency Communications Center, is different from a solo center, an individual town having its own PSAP. The state was funding quite a bit of money to entice towns to join hands, so to speak, because it decreased the amount of cost that they were operating under, because the PSAPs were being now centrally located and you didn't need as many throughout. So, as I said, the state funded that study, and at the end of it, it was really just Plimpton and Duxbury, the only two towns standing that wanted to do this. And we had great discussions with the town manager at the time. This was a long-range goal, and so we started off just with two towns, and I think we were referred to as the Duxbury Regional Emergency Communications Center. Chief Clancy was very much interested in handing it off to the fire service at that time, or making it more independent. And one of those reasons, the biggest reasons, was the state required us to perform emergency medical dispatch, EMD, so that when someone calls 911, you actually have somebody with a script that knows first aid and that can coach and basically tell the caller how to do CPR, childbirth, stop bleeding, choking, all those things. And that became a requirement. And it was going to be difficult for all the law enforcement officers at the time that were doing the dispatching to now take that additional training and whatnot. So just the other issue is we had the space. As you know, we had a renovation at the station and we vacated the left side of the building. He was also planning to get a new building himself, and we wanted to shave off some of the cost of the construction for the new police station because they were up on West Street working out of a very small room. And then the other big thing was the amount of funding that the state would make available to us for infrastructure. And I have a slide there or a paper that I can walk through you on that as well. But Duxbury had a failing radio system, both police and fire. And it was going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to get us up into compliancy, basically, and whatnot. So those were kind of the reasons behind that shift. And I really wanted to review that with you, if you hadn't heard that, and also for the citizens sitting at home that say, why did they bother going to do this? And that was the crux of that big change. We ran the entity similar to what the PD did at the time. It was the fire department budget grew as we added personnel to it, and obviously. And one of the difficulties we had annually was being able to strip out what the costs actually were. From there, we shifted to a revolving account, which we carried for several years. And the goal ultimately was to get to that enterprise account where we will just invoice the town of Duxbury for the services provided. And at the end of the day, that's what we do. We provide a service, a professional service, to those towns, those 6 towns, 12 departments. We answer their 911 calls. We provide the caller with the proper EMD. We dispatch their police cars, ambulances, fire trucks. We do data entry, culminating the incident and everything that we gathered with the narration. We manage the mutual aid, the resources, the additional equipment or personnel that are required for any emergency, and then we close the call out. And we not only answer the 911 phone for those 6 towns, we also answer a 10-digit phone for those towns, which is fire alarms, burglar alarms. Almost everybody in this town has a burglar alarm, so there's a lot of phone-in type calls that the dispatch staff has to handle up there at any given time. We work under basically 4 grants, and when we write the budget, it's kind of difficult because the grants are written. Development grant, for instance, Joe, is when?
That's a fiscal year,
July, but he has to submit in March. And then our S&I support and incentive is submitted after that. And that's for that fiscal year budget. So when we don't know what the S&I is going to be, we have to have some conversations with the director from State 911 to kind of see where we're at. Can we get some more money? Can't we get some money? So you can see the budgeting process is a little bit splayed out over several months. But I felt very comfortable in fiscal year 25 to say that the town of Duxbury was going to cost $600,000. And I put an earmark there. Since then, we've been able to reduce that cost to the town. And I can walk you through that because it now became factual when we had discussions with State 911 and submitting grants and whatnot. The support and incentive grant, I'm going to talk about the 4 grants, the 4 buckets of money. The support and incentive is applied for, as Joe said, annually, and it offsets the expenses, the operational expenses. The development grant is for infrastructure, radio systems, MDTs, hardware, equipment, security systems, closed-circuit television systems, anything that a town may need. But additional in that development grant is also the salaries for the director and the deputy director that we can claim. So you see, that's not under S&I. So again, you write the budget starting in August, September, and we try to grab what the operation's going to cost us after we review what the run count is from the previous year. And then we have to turn around and go seek those grants to offset our costs. So it's cumbersome, it's doable, and we did it. But like I said, there's a lot that goes into just, writing that budget. The other 2 is training. That provides dispatcher qualification training, backfill and overtime, and any training tuitions that they may cost because they have to recertify as 911 telecommunicators. And then the 4th bucket is EMD, Emergency Medical Dispatch, which provides training, backfill, and overtime, as well as software. So we apply for all those 4 grants. And Joe, what was training grant this year?
Training grant this year was just north of 110,000.
Yep, and then the EMD?
EMD, 10 to 15,000.
Yeah, so you could see that there's a lot of grants out there that we go for. The formula, to formulate the budget, what we do first is we take the run count and population of the communities that we serve. And we see if we're able to staff to that demand. And more or less, it usually increases by 2 to 4% annually is what we see. We grab the run count based on what the volume is of an interaction between the dispatcher and the patrolman or the firefighter. If there's a self-initiated action by a patrolman, like a building check, and he puts it in his own computer and he doesn't have to call dispatch, then that's not an activity. So that's why I caution you when you pull up that first one, Nancy, you can go ahead, the run count. The run count, basically, you could see where we used last year's numbers for each community, police and fire. And then the population is important to us because the state sets our PSAPs, our, what do we call them?
The next gen now.
The next gen 911 consoles to the population. So the town of Duxbury was built out for 100,000 population. That's the max. We can't go any higher than that unless we build another building or go up another floor. So we have to kind of keep a vigil on our population, and you can see our population is below that. But that's what the entity is built for. If you look at this here, clearly you can see the PD count, the fire department EMS count, and basically it's important for us to derive those numbers so that we can then issue a share of the pie, what your town is going to pay. And you can see Duxbury's the busiest. Hanover was a close #1 last year, the year before, and so on. Fernando,
Just a
sure.
quick question. So I can understand the PD run count, right? So Duxbury
Sure.
9,000, then the fire department EMS 2,000, and you got population 16.
Yeah.
So what is, why do you add it up? And because it becomes then part of your formula after, why do you add it
Yeah.
up to the census, the people?
Yeah,
Why is that?
and the only way, the best explanation I can do is that's what the person that conducted the study said to do. Make sure you add the population and you add that. You might have a situation where you might have a town that is significantly higher in population but has a lesser run count but has a potential to increase in run count. And so it's not an exact science, but it's all we use. There are other communities that use a flat rate. The Shrek, which is Hingham, Norwell, Hull, Cohasset, I think it's a across-the-board $200,000 fee, and then it's based on volume. So there's a couple of different ways to do that. But what we did is we went back to what we call the Bible, which was that study, that survey that was done.
Right.
And that was our best methodology. So we've always done that.
Okay.
So the percentage, as you can see, is born into the next page.
Before you go there,
Sure.
just interesting is, so for instance, Plimpton,
Yeah.
you know, it's got it's amazing the ratio of their call out of police and their population, right?
Yeah.
I did a calculation. All towns roughly about 45-50% of the call out is police, and about 20% average is for EMS. But Plimpton is kind of an outlier there. Is it
Yeah.
any understanding there, or
None at all.
It's
And,
going to affect your figures, right?
And what we do is we send these statistics to the police chief and the fire chief of each community and have them weigh in. And of course, the argument is, oh, geez, I'm busier than that. And then when we say that there's a fee assessed to that, oh, no, I'm not that busy. So we kind of go back and forth a little bit, Fernando, to be honest with
Right.
you. But that is based on the 2020 census, which is the last one available, and the 23 run count, which is our only last full year.
So this formula has been established by, who established this formula? Is it-
AECom was the company that did the study out of Georgia. And like I said, it's a methodology in which other agencies use. But
Right.
it's the one that has worked best for us.
Okay.
Chris, quick question. What is
Sure.
the deal with Pembroke?
So Pembroke is interested in joining the family. And again, I kind of have to be careful with what I disclose here publicly because we're kind of in negotiation along with some of those other numbers. But I did want to be accurate and give you how the sausage is made, so to speak, because you kind of deserve that. So that's what you have before you. So if Pembroke comes in, and I was doing a count for them, they would be the busiest, and it would make other people's fees drop significantly if we don't add staff. And Joe and I, it'll be mostly Joe, I'm out of the picture now, feels as though that our current staff would be able to absorb Pembroke without additional staffing.
Okay,
And
just
so
know
that's where we
that
get-
that I
that's-
am making a note of that.
Sure. Like I said, we look at this annually, what our staffing levels are, and can we meet the volume? And so far, so good, it's worked. But that's to answer your question, is that we do have room for probably 2 more towns and allow us a buffer. There may be an interest in Kingston someday, maybe Marshfield, but Pembroke is actually interested, and we're having discussions with the town manager. They're building a multi-million-dollar police and fire station. They'd like to strip out the dispatch center.
Can I also just make a comment on I too looked at these numbers, and they seem curious at best. And I wonder if, I know that you're using the same methodology as other, but for instance, a town like Hanover and Rochester, I'm not sure about Rochester, but Hanover surely has much more of a commercial component. And I wonder if that's driving they have a significantly higher for their population fire department and EMS run count.
Amy, all I can tell you is that's data. We count every call that comes in, and we print out a report, and we send it to the police chief and fire chief and say, hey, this is your volume. And they agree or disagree, and 9 times out of 10, they can't argue with the data that goes in because they enter it. Our dispatchers enter it. So those are the facts, and I'm glad we have those hardcore facts, because, to just willy-nilly say, well, Hanover's the busiest. And at one time, we all thought they were, and they're not. We're Duxbury's busier. The police are much busier than Hanover police. I don't know why. That isn't up for discussion here. It's just, that's the formula that we use to make the sausage.
Okay, and the run counts, the run count represents activity in which the PSD interacts
Public safety
via
dispatcher.
radio, phone, or CAD.
Computer-aided dispatch, yeah. So in other words, anything that requires the activity of the dispatcher counts as a run for us. In the police department in Duxbury, I think their run count actually is north of 9,000. I think it's more like 13 or 14,000. Why? Because they have self-initiated cruiser checks at every shift, 3 times a day. They have building checks that they self-initiate. They put it in their own MDT.
And so that counts as a run?
It does not count.
It does not count?
It does not count, because we don't have any activity. We're not answering their phone. We're not answering them on the radio. They're initiating something, just like the fire department goes out and does 1,000 inspections. They're keeping track of that. We're not.
So is it fair to say that the participants, each of these towns have the same policy when it comes to the interactions that they take with customers? In other words, is it that when somebody calls the Duxbury Police Department for something, I don't know what that is, that they handle it slightly different, causing a call
Every
or a
time.
reaction, as opposed to another town that maybe doesn't handle it that way, so they don't get the checkbox? They
Sure.
don't-
Every town is different. Why? Because you have some with patrolmen in the station that are sitting in front of a computer, and somebody comes in and says, hey, I want to walk in and lodge a loud noise complaint in my neighborhood, and the patrolman takes care of it. There's no activity by our dispatch. So therefore, why are we charging them?
Okay. I just wanted to see if we were
And like I
kind of
said,
comparing apples to apples.
every town is different. If a town calls in their building checks and doesn't want to enter it on their MDTs, yeah, it's going to be an activity that we should charge for, because you're making us busy, right? That's common sense.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Chief,
Chair, I like the ring to that.
thank you. The court costs, do you have dispatchers heading to court anymore to authenticate?
So that is another, I'm glad you brought that up. So that is another activity that we're busy with behind the scenes, is turret tapes they're referred to.
Right.
So any audio recordings, we provide for them. We don't usually count that. Administration usually handles that. But that's each department, almost every department wants the 911 call, can you send us that? We
And-
do that electronically.
Are you finding that your dispatchers are getting called to court at all to authenticate?
Often,
Not often,
the
however,
big cases.
we're seeing a little bit of a rise
Yeah.
statewide.
Right.
Just here in Duxbury.
Joe, can you go closer to
Yes,
the
sorry.
Mike, please?
Yeah, we are seeing a little bit of a rise in that, and it's not just here in Duxbury, it is statewide. And I can't explain why that is, but
Yeah.
summonses are coming in few and far between, but nothing more than they have in the past.
I only asked for the question of, is that something we would break out as far as divvying up the costs here? Or is it?
That, you know, that would be based in the overtime that the candidate or the dispatcher would get, and therefore that's split evenly. I think it would probably be evenly.
Okay.
We could drill down on that number at a later time. But I was so excited to put into this budget everything that the town of Duxbury has done and not been paid for in the past, legal, HR, internal IT, and that's what that reflects, is why we saw such a significant, when you look at the budget side, we saw a dramatic increase because we put all those costs in.
Yeah.
If you want to go to the next one, Nancy, if you're all set with this one, this
That's
is just a
fine.
run count, and I
Yep.
brought this up so that you could see that, you know, basically, those are our salaries, those are the benefits, roughly $15,000 employee. I think 400 of that, it goes to the trust fund, what's that called? Yes. It's about 543 total that is earmarked for the town to take for retirement, Medicare, all of that. So all the towns share that cost. And then you just see full-time employees, overtime, clothing, part-time shifts. And so you see salary and benefits total, it's at the 3.4 million. And then our expenses, obviously, I can drill down on that further, but this was all pretty much presented to the Finance Committee, Fiscal Advisory and whatnot. That's $426,000. So once we get a cost of what the operation is, that $426, then we back out the S&I. And so we take that off, and you can see our support and incentive grew from $1 million to $1.9 million, because we asked the director, Frank Posniak, for an additional $900,000 this year because we did make the transition to the enterprise account, and therefore the cost of the operation grew significantly.
Sorry, can you, if you don't mind the speaker, the
Oh.
microphone, so
Yeah.
people there.
You can hear me though, right?
I can
We
hear,
can
but
hear
there's
you.
people on
People
TV.
at home.
People at home.
So that's basically an overview of the budget, but if you scroll up, Nancy, you can see where we take that formula now, and that's how we tend to decide who pays what.
Yeah.
The IMAs, the intermunicipal agreements, have been 2 years. They're up in 2025. We've already decided we're going to do a one-year deal, basically for two reasons. We want to get our arms around this budget much better in this new enterprise environment. We don't want to cut anybody short. And if Pembroke comes in, then that would all have to be reset anyways, because that would change the dynamic. And so you can see the percentage, and the 24 assessment was 516 to the town of Duxbury. We're projecting 525 this year, even though we put an earmark in for 600, which was approved at town meeting, because that's what we had back in October when we were coming up with this. And you can see down below that we do have to adjust some of the other communities that after 2 years are a little bit off the mark. A couple of the towns, the way the state does the development grant, if you come into the REC, the Regional Emergency Communications Center, that concept, you get the first 3 years free tuition. So the state pays it, not the town. And then fourth year is 50%, fifth year is 25%. So there's a whole bunch of formulas in that. So one of the questions you had all asked us is, hey, you know, is this worth it? Should we keep doing this? Oh, I'm sorry, Fernando, go right ahead.
Just if you don't mind.
Not at all.
So I think one of the early concerns about this was the indirect cost, that we weren't capturing the indirect cost.
The thing we were trying to think of what that word was. I know. Fernando's going to ask us about indirect costs, because that's what Jerry used to talk a lot about, right, Fernando?
Yes, your direct
I
costs and
digress.
indirect costs,
So the
right?
indirect costs,
You capture
Mary,
them now, right?
Yes, I think Mary would agree that we've captured those.
But not all, though. Not all, right? Well, what about people when they retire, right? They're Duxbury employees. Are we covering the cost, the burden that we take on by having an employee that was at the Rock and retires, and we have to pay for it? Is that covered? Is that now a part of the indirect cost calculation or not?
So the answer is yes and no.
Okay, that's always a good answer, isn't it?
I should use
I
that.
love those answers.
You asked.
So the indirect cost calculation this year did include a component of the OPEB liability that you're referring to. And what the component that we're capturing for FY25 is the actual cost for active employees. What needs to happen is the town, when we go to do our biannual OPEB study, our actuarial valuation, we need to work with our actuary to break out the cost of the ROC employees from town and water
Yes.
enterprise employees. Right now, everybody is commingled into one total outstanding liability, and until we know from the actuary what share they represent, we can't accurately recover all of those costs right now.
Okay.
So that will
But
be
the plan
included.
is to do that.
The plan is absolutely to do that.
And we could do that better with the enterprise account than we could before.
Yep, we can certainly do that, but it needs to be driven from our next OPEB valuation study.
Okay.
Any
Same thing for
other-
the water enterprise.
Yeah. Any other indirect?
No,
Cost of thoughts?
you said you were covering, right? And
Yeah.
that's the bit that was missing in my mind, the retirement impact of.
Yeah, we're going to charge them more next year, don't worry.
Okay.
Well, but on that note, just on this slide, looking at Halifax, the cost share of formula, there are 252, but the 25 assessment is 200, so
Yeah.
they'd be going down in there?
Who are you looking at, ma'am?
Halifax.
Halifax. So they should be going up.
Is that what that says, though?
No, it doesn't.
No.
No, so the fiscal year '25 assessment how can I phrase this eloquently? Let's just say that some of the communities weren't satisfied with the performance of the ROC in the past.
Really?
A couple of communities felt as though that they wanted to shop around. And we realized that we had some in-house things to straighten out. And so we've done that. And we're, as a method of being a good partner, we told them that fiscal year '25, with the one-year deal, is all going to remain the same, with the exception of a couple that are still funded by the state, which you see the changes in the town of Duxbury. And that with this new enterprise account, and we want to make sure that we capture all our expenses, that we'll be able to rework that for fiscal year '26. It's too late to impose upon a town a $52,000 increase. We understand that, and we were able to get that covered by the Director of State 911, AKA the increase in the S&I.
Okay, so.
And if you could see down the bottom, it balances with a buffer. I hope that answers your question.
Right,
But I
okay.
can't really go into any greater depth on things that happened in the past in a public forum.
Yeah. I think we.
Thanks. The next thing I wanted to put up there is the big question came about, hey, what if we go back to the way it was? Or what if we say, we're not going to do this anymore, which would be it would be a divorce, and it would take several years. You have that. We've signed agreements with many communities in the state and gotten an awful lot of money to continue to operate this way. So it wouldn't be just overnight. But what I tried to do is I tried to take, if just Duxbury ran solo with 2 civilians, and you need 2 at a minimum because you're going to provide EMD, someone's got to be telling someone how to do CPR while you're dispatching the fire cars, ambulances, and police cars. You can see that as you scroll down, Nancy, those are the costs. And down the bottom of the page, you're at 1.1 million. And our S&I would drop to 70,000 as a solo. We're no longer a rec. We don't have that incentive anymore. And we would no longer get development grant money for infrastructure. Everything would be on your dime. So I also wanted to do it like it was day one when we initiated this. We used to have a patrolman and a civilian fire dispatcher sitting side by side. And the next slide, Nancy, illustrates that it's even more money, probably by $50,000. You can see that it's 1.18. So you're paying $515, $550, and it would be $1.1 million if you guys decided to go solo. So I hope that illustrates. And it was, not exceptionally difficult to get these numbers, but it was time consuming to boil these down for you and to look at, the numbers and represent them well to you. And then the last page, which is pretty much the most important one I want you to realize, is other than being a rec and providing this service for other communities and getting our costs offset because of S&I and the fact that, you know, we could scale our costs because more people are pitching in, is the development side. And you can see there on the left column is the amount of millions of dollars that we've gotten just to the town of Duxbury for Duxbury stuff. And then the right-hand column is all in the millions of dollars we've got since, what is that, 2014, I think? Yes.
Yeah.
2014, when we started earning that. And a lot of that stuff was really utilized by the town servers, phone systems, things that the town enjoys on that equipment. And there's no way that you would be able to afford that on our own. And so we have the best technology. We have the best CAD, computer-aided dispatch system. And I want to ask Joe to make a few comments and then open it up for any further questions. And I really want Chief Reardon, because I'm sure there's a few things that are left out. I know Joe has some statistics. And I think Chief Reardon looks at it from being an end user, being the fire chief, and what it does. So I'll let you, Joe, you talk a few minutes.
You know, the one thing that this slide doesn't encapsulate is the total all-in investment by the state that has saved the town. That's just our development grant. That's all in, basically that's our capital. So the ROC's been around since 2000, well, Duxbury Regional's been around since 2013, 2014, and there's been zero capital requests from us. It's all come by way of the state 911 department. If you look at that 18 million, that's got to be close to, I would say, 40 to 50 million, including the support and incentive grant, the training grant, and the EMD grant. And the EMD grant covered just 2 years ago, before I left to go to the state, about a $97,000 emergency medical dispatch system upgrade that we didn't have to come to the town to ask for. We didn't have to go to our communities and say, hey, we got to kick our assessments up because we're moving up. Another unique feature here is the development grant and the salaries that it covers. Over the last few years, there's been a lot of strides in regionalization. So the development grant, it used to just cover a director. It now, 3 years ago, it started covering the deputy director, and now they include what's called key support positions. So positions such as a tech person, human resources, that sort of stuff, dedicated solely to the regional. It will cover that sort of salary. Outside of that, you know, it's amazing to me the amount of money that the state has given us, and there's more to come. We're moving to a brand new CAD system that was also paid for by the state, and in this year's support and incentive grant, the state will cover 60% of my annual maintenance on my CAD. So there's another bucket of money coming in to help me offset my request to the town.
Can I ask you a question on that?
Yes, ma'am.
So it's my understanding that the state grants covered our management costs in previous years. Why did the grant not cover the costs in 2024?
Sure, I'm happy to answer that, because I was in the room at State 901 when that decision was made. What it came down to is the priority scale that Director Mahoney had put in for. The salaries versus a fiber project that was looked at. And what it came down to is what was best for regionalization, paying salaries or paying the fiber project. And at the end of the day, the fiber project is what was decided, what was best for regionalization at the state level.
I'm not sure I understand that.
But we're getting it in 25 now, right?
Yep.
We're gonna,
Yeah,
it's
So
gonna cover the cost.
it's not
Yeah.
guaranteed. The grant application is in.
right.
And I'm confident, though, that we will.
Okay. I mean,
The money comes, tell them where the money comes from.
Sure, so the
The money tree.
The money comes from cell phone surcharge. So Massachusetts is one of a handful of states that the 911 surcharge goes direct to 911. There's legislation in place that protects it. It can't be put into a general fund. The governor can't come in and say, hey, I want that money. It goes direct to state 911. So the development grant over the last several years has increased. It started off at around 7 million, and as of this year, it's 50 million is what the pot is, between 30, and that's a shared pot between 31 active regional centers. So when I said the decision came down to what's best for regionalization, when I file my development grant, I have to list in order, basically in priority, what projects I want the state to fund. So for instance, this year, my top priority was my assessments to 2 communities that are still under the guidance of the state or are still getting their assessments covered. Then it was some radio infrastructure that's desperately needed for some of the other communities. Then it's my salaries. So what the state will do is they sit down, look at my application, look at look at where I sit within the priority scale, and then decide based off of that how much money they're going to give me.
Can I just make a comment? Sorry, I'm looking at the old chair.
It's fine. She's,
Sorry.
yeah.
Old habits
Backing
make
up.
hard. The
Not
old
the
chair.
old chair, the former chair.
Our old former chair.
So when you just think about the numbers, right? A town, previously, we had, for 24/7 coverage, we had 10 full-time equivalents, right? Yeah? And we know that, that's fact, yeah? And so now, so if there were 6 towns on their own, that would be 60 full-time equivalents in total, right? For 6 towns, yeah? 6 times 2. But here we got One Rock serving 6 towns with 35 full-time equivalents. So at the end of the day, it's got to be cheaper, right? It makes sense. We're paying basically a half.
Yeah.
So we're paying for one person.
Yeah, we're paying $525 for the value of 1.1,
Yeah,
right? I mean, I think that's the,
that's the math.
yeah.
And that's what I wanted to
Yeah,
understand.
Showed,
Yeah.
$1,000,000.1 if you were solo.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
your assessment this year is going to be, like I said, 515, 550.
You have to speak into the microphone.
You don't like that microphone, chief?
Do you want to talk about that, or can I talk about mine?
Oh, well,
Sure.
Because I have something I want to hit. But, as an end user, I just want to speak really quickly. Because I was here in the beginning when this started. I got put in charge of this project with Chief Nord, so I was involved in building it. And what we have today compared to what we had then, there's no comparison. So for the end user, a couple quick things. We have highly trained telecommunicators that understand what they're doing, that get us out the door quick with quality info. And what's that mean? It gets help to you a lot faster. So one of the points I want to disagree with what Chief Nord said is if you looked at that diagram, he talked about what it would cost today to have 2 people there. I argue that there's no way you could run this system with 2 people there because that was almost 12 years ago. And what has changed? Cell phones. So when we're getting calls to Route 3 for a motor vehicle accident or a brush fire, and we get 60 calls in less than 10 minutes, 2 people can't answer that. 2 people can't be given CPR instructions. 2 people can't be dispatching police, fire. So when you look at that 1.1 million, I think that's low. But as an end user, I think the product that we're getting is far superior than we ever did before. So I just want to say on my behalf, I think we're lucky to have the Rock here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
You're welcome.
So far superior for half the cost.
Yeah, I like that.
Any other thoughts, questions,
Does anybody from the board have any questions?
comments?
Additional ones?
I hope it made sense to
Let me look
you.
at my list.
And I hope it made sense to the residents at home.
Amy's,
I did have a list.
Amy has a list.
Amy's got a list.
Amy's
Hang
got a
on.
list.
Hold on.
Let's make sure her microphone, oh, it's on. Yeah.
Oh. In the chart somewhere, there is a F. Oh, okay, so no, you answered that question, thank you.
Mhm.
No, I think we've answered, I mean, I was gonna just ask some questions about, the analysis of the 2 civilians and kind of pick apart at that a little bit, but I don't think I have to go there. I think that the margin is significant in our savings, so I don't have to pick that apart too much.
Yeah, it's interesting because when we run that formula, and we run it several times, the first thing we need to do is okay, how many people do we need to answer the amount of calls that are coming in? And sometimes, we have more staff than what we need, and sometimes we don't have enough staff. So that's kind of fluid a little bit. But I dare say that we're staffed adequately, and we can, like I said, take another town if that came in. And that changes the numbers downstream. And then what we ask State 911 for, where they make a commitment to us verbally, but I haven't seen it yet, you know what I'm saying? And the last thing I'll just say about the IMAs is that each town signs an IMA and agrees to pay full boat if the support and incentive fails to show up. So they know that number. So it's like Duxbury's not going to be on the hook, was the point I wanted to make, that if the S&I dried up and there's literally no chance of that. I mean, we've been doing this since, like I said, 2012, and it's gone up every time we've asked for legitimate reasons. And once in a while, like Joe explained, prioritization of our asks sometimes get nixed. And yeah, so I mean, that's how we make the sausage anyway, so.
Okay, one last question I do want to ask is about, so the big change in 2025 appears to be the CTO.
Yes.
So what was the change with the CTO, and is that going to be resolved? So we have a separate CTO now for the Rock?
CTO is probably a
'Cause that was a
bad
shared.
title. It's going to be an IT director for the Rock. And one of the things I noticed in my 90 days in the hole, so to speak, was we had very little in-house expertise, and everything is dramatically technical. It's fiber optics, it's microwave, it's radio, everything's computer driven. And what I noticed is we've had a couple of people on staff that are fairly decent with computer stuff, rebooting, understanding why things aren't lining up right, I can't page out, what's going on, and they're constantly, chronically leaving their workspace to go fix other problems. Well, that isn't their job. So they're not getting their job done. The other thing is when we go out and we have these giant multi-million-dollar projects, I'm sitting there and I'm making decisions, or Joe's sitting there making decisions, and we don't have that technical background. We need an in-house IT person. And it's not the town, because the town doesn't have enough time to spend at the Rock that the demand puts on. So State 911 figured that out, and so they're starting to fund the IT position. We call it a CTO because that's the classification that the town of Duxbury has in its personnel plan. And I
So
would yield to
previous to
Jeannie
that-
on that if there's any questions. So the IT person, we do have the salary bandwidth to pick them up now, and then July, it'll be funded through the state.
Okay, 'cause
But they gotta
that-
get
and
on.
that is a change, because you used to utilize the services of the town, that was a shared.
And we built that in. We also spend $45,000 a year on outside IT help. And then inside IT help, it costs, he's only given us 20% of his time, 40% in the school, 40% for the town, and 20% is getting at the Rock, and we need 80% at the Rock. We've got a lot of technology that needs to be managed, service agreements, all that stuff. And we're on the phone with the guy every day. So we just, that was my presentation to the town manager on my way out the doors, that you seriously, this is an operation that needs a, never mind, you know, security breach happens, you see that all the time. I mean, we're in deep doo-doo if something bad goes down. Somebody goes rogue, I don't know, security systems are just, you know, right up there too. So I hope you understand that that's a
No,
much
I
needed
understand,
person.
but, and the funding for that is coming from.
State.
From the state,
That's
okay.
part of that, what'd you call them, special people?
That's, yeah,
Yeah.
key support position.
Key support positions.
And is that ongoing? That isn't monies that'll, you know, cover the cost for
For our
a year and then
understanding,
not?
for our understanding, it will. And if it ever ended, then the 6 communities would have to absorb
Right.
that salary, obviously, as a cost of doing business.
Okay, thank you.
Mr.
Yeah, no
Chairman,
worries.
So
Sure.
briefly, Kevin, thank you very much for your leadership on making this, the Rock happen in the
No
first
worries,
place.
it was
I think
a
it was
joy.
a terrific, joy, all right.
Well, I'm
Make
leaving,
sure we get
so-
that in the paper. It's a tremendous facility, and I would encourage my colleagues, if you haven't been there yet, please visit. It's really, it looks
Impressive.
like it's the bridge of the Star Trek Enterprise. It's phenomenal. We have terrific people in there. And I just want to thank you for all the work you're doing, and Joe as well,
Yeah.
running the place, because I know it's very stressful being in there. I couldn't imagine being on the other end of those calls.
Well, Joe's got that background and all the friends up at State 911, so you couldn't have picked a better guy to keep our financial.
And just finally, it looks like from your presentation, if Pembroke joins the club, so to speak, costs are going to come down even more for everybody.
Yeah, I might have had that here. We ran those numbers, and let's see if I can find it real quick, just to, you know, speculation on our part.
If you don't wanna-
But anyway, it's going to be 7 into 35, right?
And I know you're in the middle of some negotiations,
Yeah, yeah.
so.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
don't want to,
We don't want the Clipper to ruin our negotiating strategy.
Yeah, no, I know.
Nope, not asking for numbers, just,
All
right.
it's a win-win, is
Yeah,
the point.
they would come in, and they would be obviously number one, and, you know, based on our thought process on that, Duxbury would drop, probably down to 300,000 or something like that. It's that significant because they
Let's
would
not
pay.
quote numbers.
No numbers.
We'll discuss them.
Yeah. Thank you. Anything else, you let Joe know. If you have questions, you want to come down and see things, be very happy to show you. And it's been a pleasure coming before you to answer these questions and give you a little insight about what we're doing up there.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Yeah,
All right.
thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank
We're going to
you.
head out.
Enjoy your retirement again.
Yes, thank you.
Again, yeah.
But keep your phone on.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Welcome. Have a good night.
Thanks, Chief.
They probably wanted to stick around for this next part. The discussion regarding the setting of select board goals for the coming year.
Yep.
Mary's not going anywhere. No, just kidding. So this is I suppose we could just kick this off. This is something we asked for as a select board, and the town manager requested that we submit or bring with us some goals for the upcoming year, and so that we can provide our town manager and staff some direction, and also ourselves. So with that, I do not want to lead this off because I am the chair and I want to give my fellow board members an opportunity to go first. There's no priority to anyone, but maybe we'll just go left or right.
I have a question before we start.
Of course.
So what is the actual process here? So we all, you submitted a list, I've got a list, Amy's got a list. How are we going to meld those all together? Let's say we come up with 25 priorities tonight. Well, that's too many, goals. What is the process?
Yep.
Well, that's I'm open to ideas here, but I imagine that a lot of our goals and priorities are going to be similar.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Agreed.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it would be nice, maybe if we got these into one document. I know we have a platter that's been kicking around for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
I expect some of these are already on there. But I think this is, and maybe we can ask Rainey when he returns, if it would help him to have it in kind of a list for his own. But this is my view, is I thought this would be a great way to kind of set our agenda for the coming year, similar to how we had that platter. But that was more of something would come up and we'd ask it to be added onto the bottom of it. It was very reactive.
Yep.
This is more proactive.
Yeah.
We're saying this is what is on our mind for 24, 25.
Yeah.
And we would like this to be part of our agenda for the year.
Yep.
And I at least tried to, I have a 8, but I think that you'll see, a few of them are probably right, they're kind of overarching themes that we probably could have throughout the year.
I agree. Can I just say that for this discussion too, I think it's important that, all of the people have a lot of issues in town, and I don't want to in any ways minimize some people's priorities. And I tried hard kind of not to prioritize. I think there's some, I think some are going to jump out as probably, a theme and prioritize themselves, but I just don't want to, in any way, for anyone, there's a lot of important things on that running platter that, are important.
Yeah, I agree. And one of the things I was thinking about as I was preparing this is some items are being addressed.
Yep.
They're already part of our running list of agenda items, and oftentimes I have a lot of confidence in those committees or the folks that are working on those issues. So that was just my own view. But I'm open to ideas on how we can formalize this or provide. From my perspective, I really wanted Rainey and others to have a clear, picture of what we're doing, so it's fair to them. So we're not like, oh, you didn't address this issue. Now we're right up in front here. We're being proactive. What's on our mind? There's no surprises halfway through the year that we just forgot to tell them something. We're telling them now.
I think it's fun, it's great, but I do think, I liked the idea that when it was, we started this, future agenda items. And it seems to me that in many ways, when I look at my list, that those things are on here. And so I'm just wondering how it's going to, I just wondering how it's going to differ, how it's going to, change the way we do things.
Can I maybe
But I
just,
don't have any,
yeah, can I maybe just offer something? So it seems to me that as a board, we're very reactive. Basically stuff comes up.
Yeah.
And then we put it on the platter, we address it. And I was struck with, a couple of things. PFAS has been on the agenda for quite some time, and it took us a long time to actually get it under control, or have a plan going forward, right? So there's something about maybe just the phrase going from reactive to proactive. The comments that were made by the fiscal advisory, Alex Chin, around, that each department has the capital program, but do we actually sit down as a board and look at the next 5-10 years ahead of us and what we need to start thinking about it now? So it's a strategy. It's basically we need the help as a board to maybe a facilitator, but something about strategic plan development.
Right.
Envision Duxbury has an element of 5 years. I mean, climate resiliency. We need to start looking at how, from a strategic point of view, how do we address climate resiliency, right?
on my
Capital
list.
planning. So I think at the end of the day, maybe it's a strategy development
Okay.
But
going there. And so how do we?
Can I add one thing, Fernando? Because I think you're hitting the nail on the head. Except that, I think what this board is charged with doing is setting the policy in the direction of the town, and
Right.
then the town manager and staff work towards those goals. And that's one of the things that really seems to have been missing, is that policy setting. And so I think this is an attempt to set those
Correct.
those policies and priorities for the upcoming year. And I also think it's important that we're not roped into these. Other things may come up at any moment that far supersede something on our list. So we always have, it's going to be kind of a living document.
So that sort of answers my question, except I'm not sure, I assume that Nancy's going to take down all of the things that we're saying, are listing them, and so we'll have a whole bunch of things. But how, are those all the things that we individually list? Are those going to be our goals? Or are we going to take some time in the future to try to consolidate them, decide which ones are more important,
Yeah, I think
I mean, this seems to me to be sort of like doing a
smorgasbord. But it's how can you say that? Maybe we need somebody to help facilitate the conversation that we're having, right? So it's something. There's got to be a frame by which we figure out what is important for this town,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so. Maybe we pull out Envision Duxbury and look at it. This is what the town residents have told us what's important, right?
Yeah.
And then what actions are we taking, both short-term and long-term, to fulfill the goals and the objectives which the town residents, the 1,500 people, told us that's important to them, right? So I think it's difficult for us right now. We don't have a frame, but facilitators in strategy development are pretty good, and we can do an open session that we can invite somebody in here to help us have this conversation and kind of finesse. At the end of the day, we can't do the smorgasbord is what it's the reactive stuff. We always need to have space for reactive, but we need to spend some time and make sure that we touch upon the strategic elements, and we need that conversation. We need somebody to help us facilitate that
So
conversation.
the way that I kind of set my list up here was that I did have a little bit of help, I'm not going to lie. I started out with the goal. Why is the goal important? How do we achieve this? So I've got bullets as to how, when, a little bit of a timeline here. The first 3 months, we pull together a task force, and then what the desired outcome is. And I kind of went through each of my goals and did that little exercise. So, I think I actually have a really strong feeling that we're all going to agree on some top goals for this year. I think the first one being budget.
That's one on mine.
Yeah. I think well, it's already Rennie's goal anyway, right? We got to chase him up.
Task
But it's
force
his
and-
task force implementation.
Right.
And then, PFAS is obviously, we're working on it. But this is about, again, just stepping up capital, right? We've got quite a few things. There are, we've got the DPW, some of the bridge, climate resiliency.
Yeah.
Right? There's a capital demand, a resource demand. So how do we sit down and kind of
Right.
lay it out and figure out how we're going to have this conversation? I think that's where we're struggling is we don't have the mechanism by which to start this conversation and figure out how do you develop a strategy. I think.
I think we can just start the conversation
Yeah, I
going
think we.
around the table.
Yeah, I think,
That's fine.
and I'll
That's
start,
just,
Amy's got her, would you maybe want to start with the priorities, I think? And with the how and the when, I'll leave that to you, but I think that maybe that's something we could, as we pull this together with either Nancy or Rainey, we could kind of decide which priorities were shared, and maybe your
I
guidance
think
on.
a lot of them are going to be shared. I
and
think
maybe
we're all going to agree.
And how and when, we can see which ones match up there. I think that's one way to start here is we could either put together, a list or a spreadsheet and how we're doing this. Because I bet a lot of them are going to match.
But Brian, you're any thoughts, Brian?
Yes, I'm listening,
listening.
To all the approaches, but it seems to me that, well, as I look at what we're being asked to do, it's to assist the town manager
Right.
on his to-do list, basically, right? So he's got lots of things that are very important to all of us, but he can't do all of them at the same time. He has to prioritize, and that's why he's looking to us. In terms of administration of how we go through the process, before Nancy goes screaming out of the room with carpal tunnel, thinking that she's going to take a really long list tonight, it's us really just providing guidance as to what priorities are most important. So I see a couple of different ways of maybe doing this. If we have a discussion and we all agree on 3 things right out of the gate, okay, well, terrific, we've accomplished our goal. Because we'll leave it to the town manager and staff, I think, as to the tactics as to how to achieve those goals. We're at the strategy level, right, of describing what those goals are. The other is if we really do have bullet points or lists ourselves, I don't know if this is necessarily the most effective form to just rattle off lists and talk about them. I wonder if maybe we can all submit lists to a central point, like Nancy, not here, to put, because we can't communicate, outside of this by email, but we can maybe submit everything to have one central list, not that smorgasbord thing. I understand what you're talking about there. That's more of a list of things that are coming up for meetings, but a list of things that we've all come up with in terms of priorities, that would be distributed to all of us, and that could be something that we rate, 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, that would be one way to do it. Fernando, frankly, I like your idea of having a facilitator come in and help us with that. But just in terms of the short-term deliverable of giving the town manager guidance as to what he should be focusing his time on and his staff's time on, I'd be curious to know what you're all thinking in terms of big ticket or high-level items, because I think there'll probably be some agreement.
And I can say, and I know just Amy said this exactly on that high-ticket item, addressing our fiscal year 26 budget was first on this list. And I really, and I think he said it's going to happen, and this is why this needs to be a, right away kind of priorities. I think we all agreed getting liaisons to that committee is important. And I know that's something that under our Town Manager Act, that would be appropriate for Rainey to handle. And I would like more frequent updates, quarterly at a most, especially if we're talking about something as significant as an override. I'd like
But
department meetings and things like that, if needed. And I'd also, and I think we've talked about this in years past, having a consensus from our board before that budget letter goes out. So those are kind of, on that one theme of budget. I'd like that. That's my view. Is that's something I'd like right out the gate that I would like as a goal and as a priority for our town manager. I know there's obviously considerations and all these other things that, and people's time, which is precious too, that can go into it, but that's something that's important to me.
I agree. I just want to make it clear that I'm not, I'm not looking to do this because I love diving into budgets. I think it's important to be public in saying that, we want to look into the costs associated with running the town, because we want to do everything necessary possible to avoid an override. And I think that requires, really looking into every department and trying to come up with efficiencies and trying to, streamline and try to reduce the tax burden, as we, move forward. So I think that the purpose of it is important, is the undertaking.
Yeah. And I also think that, and I know Mary's here, that's something for whoever our liaison or liaisons are to that committee, that we also consider the revenue side of it and our stabilization fund as well. And I'd like to poke a lot of these and be transparent about it, so that if there's an ask of town meeting, that we've explored those kind of revenue streams or buckets, so to speak. So I from the outset, I do hope that whoever our liaisons are consider that.
And having two liaisons too, I think I think the updates are a really good idea, because then we can all be offering our input to the liaisons, so that they are really representing the views of this board, because,
Yeah.
we all can't be on that committee as much as we'd want to, so we need to make sure that the views of the members are being
Yeah.
shared.
And does any other board members have any thoughts initially here? I know we're in March still, but any other thoughts, how kind of starting out on that issue, on the planning for the budget for the fiscal year 26?
No, I think just the fact that that's top of the list is something that I would get behind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep,
And
top
I
of the
think-
list.
Yeah, top of the list. I think there's a plan in place to start by forming this task force
Task force, yeah.
early. And so I guess,
Yeah.
Number one. How about, I'll suggest then the next one is a priority is climate resiliency.
That's the next one on my list.
number one on my list, but
Yeah.
just because I didn't actually rate
Well,
them.
again, I think they're all priorities. I'm not sure that one's more
Right.
important than the other.
Right.
Okay, how about, we got two equal number ones.
One thing
Yeah.
I just, before going into some of the specific themes, and I totally respect that people have that as a second or a third, but on the theme of money, you mentioned planning.
Capital planning.
And that was something I had thought about as well back in the fall. And I would like for our town manager to deliver a 5-year capital improvements program to our board and the finance committee and the fiscal advisory committee together, so that we're all on the same page. I think that's dovetailing with our operational budget.
But before this is what we need to step back for a second. Strategy development, capital planning, let's not be directive. I think there's, Alex Chin brought up a point, right, about and Rennie made a point that all departments are doing their own capital planning, right? But Alec talked about actually stepping back and thinking about holistically the whole thing, lining it up with financial, how do we get the funding, how do we roll off capital and put more capital in there, the overall impact on the town, right? So it's about, let's not tell people, let's sit, we've got to step back and say there's a strategic capital planning is a missing, and then direct Rennie to go and figure out how we're going to go as maybe it's not the task force, but how do we strategically address capital planning in this town collectively? And it comes up, and it's not. We do very well every year. We do great for the budget, but and in capital is very much again is very reactive. Is year by year. What's our long-term plan around it? How do we address it? So that's something that was an ask for Alex Chin and the fiscal advisory, right?
And I think it's appropriate. The only reason the
Yeah.
wording was like it was, is that comes right from our Town Manager Act.
Right.
So that's a deliverable it's part of our Town Manager Act. So
Right.
I don't think that's, and whether it's a directive or not, I posed it as a priority. I just think if we're talking about our operational end of it, we should also be forecasting our capital.
Yeah, sure. No,
But is the then there's it's the strategic plan to fund
Fund it.
our priorities.
Yep.
We need a plan if we set these goals and priorities, there has to be a plan.
Correct.
A money behind it. And that's kind of the whole, that's been the whole cat and mouse game with the comprehensive plan as well. There's so many good initiatives in there and ideas and the directions that we need to move forward on, yet there's no funding available. So we have to come up with a plan as to how we're going to fund these initiatives that we all feel are so important.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Although, not to get into the weeds in the comprehensive plan, but our new planning board member, Tad Carpenter, put together a very robust list of everything that needs to be done for the deliverables for the comprehensive plan, and a lot of them don't require money.
There you
They
go.
require
It would be-
departments to do things, right?
Yeah.
So,
But even that
committees.
requires somebody to help ensure that it stays on track, right? And
Sure.
and support and address problems, right? Some committees may be stuck, and that's where we as a board can help them find solutions.
So one of my goals was to work with the planning board on the master plan. That's been on our smorgasbord list, which I still think a lot of those things are sort of long-term things, not just reactive, but that's been on our list for a long, long time. It's supposedly stuck because we don't have a planner, but I think that we can, stop using that as an excuse for not going forward.
Okay.
And start looking, I haven't seen tags. I remember you saying you were going to do it, but I have never seen it. And so that would be,
I haven't seen it.
really interesting to me. And,
Send it to
okay, and to start working on that, because there are, we're 5 years in already. And I don't know how much has been done. I know there's a lot to be done, I feel sort of up in the air, not up in the air, in the clouds about it. It's a good document, but, what are we doing with it?
it's accountability, to your point. It's just making sure that the departments and the committees are doing the things
Yeah.
that are literally laid out as
Right.
described. These are things you need to do, A, B, C.
Right.
Did
But
you
I-
do them, yes or no?
Yeah, but I think we need to, as the select board, need to start taking some ownership of it, along with the planning board, because it's not been happening.
Yeah. Oh, I think we own it. I don't think the
We
planning board
own
owns
it.
In fact, I was on the planning board at the time we were advocating the select board own it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the planning board doesn't control
have money.
the other departments.
Right.
It's the mo-
It's-
So,
that's-
but
They're
we
all
have not
accountable to
yet.
us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I
So-
mean, to spend on that thing, we can't do it because we don't have a planner, we can't, and, I think we need to
Yeah.
stop
We
that.
Cindy, I'm with
constantly-
you.
It does feel like we get into that cyclical,
So
catch
I'm with
22.
Cindy on that, though, in terms of being a priority, comprehensive plan implementation. I've got that on my list. I only have 3,
Three is
So
a
that's-
perfect number.
right? Yeah. We've talked about 2 already, 2 of them, so
Yeah.
about 1,000.
And with with that master plan, would the climate resiliency piece be a priority within a priority there, essentially?
Well, I guess and no, but the Climate Resiliency Task Force came out of the master plan.
Right.
But it's come out.
Yep.
And so now it's, a separate item, a separate
It-
entity,
it needs
sort of.
its- it
And
needs its-
it's been meeting, it's been
Right.
planning, it's
Yeah.
been coming before us.
And we just
you
need to
know,
get it
And we
here.
need to do something for them.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, and I
The town, not just for them, for the town.
Yeah.
We have had more flooding this winter than we've probably ever
Which is
had.
the coastal resiliency.
Right?
That
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
that's one on,
You know, I mean, that's the climate thing, you know, and it's, you know, they have come together now, the coastal resiliency, the Sustainable Duxbury, which is a separate group, but also our Alternative Energy Committee, they're working together now. I mean, there are lots of really good minds
Great.
there. And I think we need to support them, you know, and, you know, whether it's the coastal resiliency efforts or the formation of a climate action plan or whatever, you know, I think that that's something that we can't just sit on our behinds about anymore.
well, I would like, as part of that goal, is to immediately seek some type of, either whether it be a part-time staff member or a consulting firm to assist in this. I think that there needs to be a designated person to assist, to help us, guide us on our resiliency. So that's like the first thing. And then from that, then grants can be applied for, prioritization of what projects, you know, get to the top of the list. Yeah, there was recent discussions about the state taking an active role in paying. I don't know if there was any but I don't think we can wait for that anymore. We can't
It'd be a
keep,
long
you know,
process.
we need to.
We need to tell, in this again, we're trying to solve problems here. We need to tell the town manager, these are our 3 priorities. The policies, directions, you need to start working on it.
That is what we
I
do. We
think
set
a
the
big piece of
policy.
Set the
this
policy.
puzzle, and I know that we've heard it's an excuse, but it's also a good reason, is that when we're talking about a person to quarterback a lot of these issues, we really do need to get a planner on board. And I know that I can't just magically make a planner come on board, but a lot of the things that you're asking for, writing grants, things like of that nature, prioritizing these plans,
But
having
I
a
don't think
basis
that-
of knowledge on climate resiliency and things like that.
Our
A
HR
planner.
director would like to say something.
Go right
You
ahead.
need to go to the,
I will.
Yeah.
So I wanted to clarify why this item is on the agenda specifically for tonight. So tonight's agenda item regarding goal setting for the select board actually was born out of the efforts that Cindy asked myself, Rainey, Fernando, and Brian to embark on around the performance evaluation process examination. And through that, those several discussions, we realized that the best way to accomplish what needs to be accomplished is for the select board to set their goals after elections as soon as possible during the performance evaluation cycle so that the town manager can set his goals based on your goals, and then it's a cascade. So the town, this is how we all row in the same direction. This is how we kind of crowdsource all of these groups that are well-intentioned but need leadership and focus. So by the board setting their goals for the upcoming 12 months during this 2-week period when we're doing our self-evaluations, then all the other boards and committees can do the same because they've just been voted into their boards and they've been reconstituted. The town manager can set his goals. He can set goals for his direct reports, and those direct reports can set goals for their direct reports. So it's critically important for us to do what we can at this time, because I think there's a lot of overlap, so that we can get all our oars in the water together, and we can all row in the same direction and accomplish what needs to be done.
Before you go, Jeannie, so thank you for that clarification. I think it's very helpful in terms of what we're looking to accomplish tonight. So, for example, if we were to agree as a board that advancing the comprehensive plan implementation is a goal, is that too vague, or is that too specific, or is that just right in terms of direction we give the town manager in terms of what he's expecting that he can cascade down?
Great question. I think all goals, to Amy's point, have to be SMART goals. So they have to be specific, they have to be measurable, they have to be actionable, they have to be reasonable. And I think, it's an art and a science, right? Because I've heard the board say tonight too that, the town manager should be able to manage what needs to be done from those initial goals, right? Like, if one of the goals is to work on the fiscal year 26 budget and create a task force, you don't have to give the town manager all of those items. But I think you need to be specific enough so that the people who are fulfilling the goals know what's expected.
Okay, so as one member, and I'm looking for movement on the implementation, it would be nice if we had a planning director, but we don't, and we're probably not going to for a little while. But we can still advance a number of those things. Now, in terms of which ones, that's where it gets more tactical, and I would rely on the judgment of the town manager to say, these are actionable, these are things I can get done within budget, within this time. So I get a little concerned saying, well, in terms of, the specific goal, I don't necessarily want to say, well, do the housing section implementation, and then, maybe he can't do that for a variety of reasons. So I want to provide clarity, but I don't want to micromanage. Maybe you can help me understand where the balance is there.
Yeah. Maybe we can do something like Cindy did with the performance evaluations, and there can be, several people who raise their hand to say, I want to work on that goal with the town manager, and then you can work on it and set those parameters.
As much as I agree, and, I'm a former author of a comprehensive plan in this town, and that is a huge undertaking. That is just, I think you have to, I think that addressing the coastal resiliency issue is, in fact, implementing part of the comprehensive plan. That's in there. A lot of these things that may be on our lists are also included in the comprehensive plan. But I think you'd have to bite off some pieces, some of
absolutely.
Yeah, you couldn't implement the comprehensive plan.
That's my point.
Yeah.
That's my point, is it's huge.
Yeah.
But we can't continue to not do anything with it.
Right. So
We need to do something, but that's, I think, where the judgment of the manager comes in.
some movement is better than no movement.
Well, I think his judgment, along with us, Brian, I would
I
want to
agree. Sure.
argue,
Yep.
that we would have to have a discussion
Yes.
specifically about that, and maybe with the planning board. Maybe it needs to be a, joint meeting or a separate meeting or something, so that we can, hash it out together, what things we can do and, what things are important to urge other committees to do, or.
I hear you, but if this is going to be something we need to do over the next 2 weeks, or we need to do this like tonight, right? If the other boards
Ideally.
need
That's
to.
what I heard.
It's,
Yeah.
basically, the town manager's goals need to be set as part of the performance evaluation process. But all of the other players we have an opportunity to set everybody's goals to align so that we can distribute the work to the appropriate people.
Well, I know what you're saying, but if our goal is to look at the comprehensive plan and to see what remains to be done, maybe look at Tag's list, we can't do that in 2 weeks.
Well, maybe the goal is make progress towards it, achieve
Right.
some portion, make progress on the comprehensive plan, because right now things aren't being accomplished.
Or even to set
Right,
up
I mean,
a,
I could,
putting it as an agenda item, I would say is a
Right.
good task, a good
Right.
to-do.
I want to make changes to that whole little,
What?
so I don't know why we
What?
can't have another meeting on it. I want to make language changes to that review, but it would directly help with this task.
The-
But
We've got
Anyhow.
to start somewhere. This is
Well,
painful.
and
I've never done it before. Let's
Right.
see if
Right.
we can get it going.
Well, we're still on this piece about the comprehensive plan. We're
Yep.
gonna
Tag would like
let
to say.
Mr. Carpenter stand up. He has his hand up.
I want this to be ours.
Tag Carpenter, Summer Street, thank you.
We voted on it.
I'm going to be very brief. It seems like a large insurmountable task, but I want to make sure we understand that of the 256 items that were enumerated, all of the boards and committees and the chairs have done work on some portion, and they were prioritized in the plan. A major portion of the comprehensive plan was a collective prioritization effort. We went to the sessions, if you were at the library, we had the big boards, and people took the dots and they put them on and it's structured, it's been prioritized. We have priorities. So I believe that it is possible in the next 2 weeks to update the status of these action items. I did it once before. It's time to do it now, in the beginning of this year. And with accurate information about the current status, that gives us then the ability to say, what is the situation that has changed? Do we need to alter the priorities that were in the plan? That is where we are with the plan, and that is what needs to happen. And it seems insurmountable because it's not within any of our domains in municipal planning. This is the work that I've done in my career in terms of going through a lot of information very quickly and boiling it down. And what we end up having to do is identify things like themes, strategies, as you're mentioning. There are synergies amongst items. There are items which were a priority 5 years ago, which clearly are no longer. And that boils right out. So I want you to take a deep breath and not be intimidated by this process. It is achievable, and it is something that must be done now, because otherwise we're going to continue to just spin.
Yep.
Correct.
And not make progress.
And we got to a pretty good point
We did.
about a year, and then we lost, obviously, our planner and
Yeah.
maybe a little bit of traction on that, and we didn't have the quarterly planning meetings that we had thought we were going to have, because other things came up. But I think you're right. When you're a historical commission, you had
Yeah.
the piece of the master plan,
Everyone has a piece, and we've
everybody
all
has a piece,
been-
and they've been
yeah.
working on it.
And I
We
think-
just need to update it, like you're
And
saying.
it's important that we communicate this publicly and ensure that the department heads and the committee chairs have the opportunity to show their progress.
Right.
And so the town understands how far along we have moved, because right now, it seems like we're not getting anywhere, and that's not the case.
Right.
Correct.
So I'm committed to helping make that happen, and I think it's something that should be an immediate goal. Because it is necessary to finish this discussion about what the rest of the priorities are.
Thank you.
May I raise, are we done, I think we all agree that the comprehensive plan
Yeah.
and kind of a sub, an item that's on my list that also I'm sure is in the goals of the comprehensive plan, maybe not worded like this, but I think one of my goals is to further protect or look into further protection for our fresh and saltwater resources. We clearly have PFAS, PFOA in our drinking water, and nitrogen plumes in our bay. And we need to look into strategies, why are we doing this? Well, we're committed. The town meeting has shown that we are committed to spending tons of money to filter our drinking water. We care deeply about the bay and our saltwater resources. I think it's clear why we need to do this. So how do we do this? Well, I think that we need to request our boards and committees to be looking at bylaws and regulations to further this goal. I think we need to seek funding and grants to further filter out, these known contaminants. And we need to start, as a board, looking at remediation of the McNeil dump and our town dump. We need to line the town dump, and we need to clean up McNeil dump. We've been told we need to do it. We need to make efforts in that direction. It's not anything that we want to do, but it's just a long overdue.
The thing is, again, you're going down, let's talk about capital planning, right? Because that will need money to do it, right? So this, if we start talking about each of the little silos again, we've got to step up and think strategically.
Yeah.
5 years, right? And then definitely, some point we need to think about remediation of McNeil Dump. However, right now we got to get PFAS out of drinking water. I need $100 million, right? And therefore, well, maybe McNeil Dump is 10 years from now, because we need to think out how we're going to fund it, right? The whole picture grants. Again, let's think at a 10,000
Yeah,
foot
and
level, right?
just to dovetail that, I agree with you, and I appreciate Amy's leadership on this and your leadership and other people, and I have complete confidence in the groups that we've formed and our Board of Health. But on your point, Fernando, one of the things that I asked Rainey to do was to expedite the water rate study and to look into
That's
the
on my
drinking
list.
water state revolving fund, because we do have these really critical issues, but on the capital planning end, we got to talk again about revenue. And I think we need to be, and from a goal or a priority for Rainey, what I would like to do is hear more. I would like to expedite that water rate study. I would like to learn more about other sources of income and revenue that we could use to hit some of these projects. Because we've gotten studies, we've gotten plans, we've gotten numbers, but we haven't got the piece about the funding. And I think that that's kind of an important piece here. So I agree with you wholeheartedly.
And there's possible litigation in there. I understand that these things are expensive, but but if we don't start putting them in our priorities, then they won't get in the 5-year capital plan. And, you know, we need to start somewhere with these. And I don't know where that place is. I just know that protecting our fresh and saltwater resources, in my opinion, is incredibly important. And I too have on my list the water rate study, because I think that can.
They're already doing it, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I agree.
Doesn't matter, right? The points have been made.
Who's been doing it?
Remember, I don't know how many times they brought it up. It's in the
works.
It's in the works. They're doing it.
We're talking.
They're doing
Jeannie's
it.
talking about deliverables and things that we can ask our town
yeah,
manager for.
Yeah.
That's why I asked for it.
Okay.
So
All right.
you know, I think if we're giving Rainey a
right,
fair
so-
template to go forward with.
Three priorities, right? That's what we agreed on, yeah? Three,
I don't
four,
I think we should.
5?
No, I've got.
Sounds like we're talking about priorities and tasks.
Yes.
I
Priorities
know,
is
right,
task.
it's like, yeah,
Task.
task.
I was a task
Yeah.
with that
Task.
priority, yeah.
What about the intermunicipal agreement with Plymouth regarding the beach? That was certainly something
Yeah.
that was made loud and clear at town meeting, that people and I've been talking about it for years. I think we need to strategize on what our options are there. I think it starts with doing an analysis, and I think Rainey mentioned to me that he has asked for the costs associated with the emergency services that we provide to the Plymouth residents out there, and we start some type of negotiation with Plymouth to create an agreement. I don't know what this looks like, but I
That could be a goal.
Yeah, and I think it was an overarching concern at town meeting about the financial issues with the beach.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, we all have our views of that, but I think it was loud and clear that the community had some concerns. And it wasn't just a rubber stamp this year on the lease. So to that point, you know, I think we could ask our town manager to address that, the lease, and also improving recreational access, because obviously that produces more revenue as well. So, you know, I agree with, you know, Amy. I don't want to step on anybody else's concerns about the beach, but I think Amy brings up some good points about the Plymouth end of it, because it definitely plays into our HCP and how we enforce it. But I also think we need to have a dramatically better summer this year on recreational access.
Well, it really impacts the cost of the beach, because traffic enforcement and speeding issues were taking place at a time when the Duxbury oversand vehicles weren't even allowed out there, and yet
Correct.
we were having to use our police department overtime and resources to be enforcing speeding and traffic stuff. So it
No
just
doubt.
seems, this-
You know, just think about it, right? So we've got a fiscal challenge for fiscal year '26 that we need to address. And so there's going to be competing interests for the money. Can you imagine if we're not ready and starting addressing the lease and how we manage our costs for that, how we increase our revenue to offset some of the cost, and yet, you know, basically we've got a shortage of money. So I understand it's going to, I don't know how long it's going to take for us to negotiate and work with that, but the priority here should be basically what can we do to increase access to the beach, right? And so we increase more revenue to offset some of the costs.
Yeah.
And then we're, yes, at the same time working with, asking Rennie to work with Plymouth to see what we can do to get some cost stuff laid there. So it seems like the whole thing needs to be put together in one kind of game plan, right?
I
The
agree.
beach is on the agenda for next week, for, you know, just so you know,
Yeah.
regarding deterrence and predation. So we'll have a full room.
Can I just pick up on Fernando's point? I completely agree where you're coming from, that we're talking, you've basically taken those individual deliverables and elevated them to a strategy.
Right.
Where we're providing the town manager with focus, saying, we're focused on the beach. And within the beach,
Yes.
there's a number of things. One
Correct.
is more recreational access. I'm completely with you on that.
Yeah.
The Plymouth issue,
Plymouth issue.
the rent, the
Yeah,
lease.
the lease.
So there's a number of things within the topic of the beach.
That's right.
Using air quotes, that are important, that may or may not move at different speeds.
Correct.
During the year.
Yep.
But I think in terms of a priority for the town, that it would be something a little more broad, the beach and those things that go
Yeah.
in with it. But I want to be sensitive to Jeannie's point earlier, that may be too broad for the purposes of the SMART goal, for example. So that's where I'm having some trouble. Because I want to get something moving, but I want it to be in accordance with whatever we agreed upon with the town manager. It needs to be actionable, but it also needs to pick up on the various sub-issues
Yeah.
that you're hearing tonight. And I know you don't speak for him, but I'm just, in terms of the process, I'm trying to thread the needle, so to speak.
We need a facilitator big time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is just,
We're going to go around, everybody's got their respective,
Sure.
right? So how do we collectively, 5 people with 5 different, aligned, but some different. Overlap, but how do we put this together in such a way that it can, I mean, this is the first time we've done it, right? So we're going to, maybe the first time we need somebody to help us with these conversations, and we'll get better. Next year will be a lot smoother because we would have practiced it once, so.
I'm getting stuck on
Yeah.
this 2-week time period.
Right.
You know, that we have to somehow have this codified in 2 weeks, so that he can have them and all the other committees and towns can have them, and I just,
So I think the idea is for philosophically everyone to know what the select board's
Yeah.
goals are. Through the performance evaluation process, those goals are then mutually agreed to. So basically, the performance evaluation has a self-evaluation component that is exactly the same form. So each individual will complete a self-evaluation form, write their own goals, and then submit that to the reviewer. The reviewer then has the luxury of knowing what is inside the reviewee's head and gets a glimpse at what that individual thinks those goals should be. So I think even if philosophically people knew what the select board was thinking about in terms of goals for the upcoming year, then that would, and as Fernando said, we have to start somewhere. And I know that we talked about this at the end of the review period last year. And, this is our bite at the apple to front load all of it. And it might not be perfect the first year. Maybe we have 3 goals, just 3 overarching goals for the whole town to kind of have in mind as we're setting our own goals. So it doesn't, I think we can't let perfect get in the way of progress. I think if we can make some moves in this direction, we will get better at it. So I'm certainly not trying to rush the board. I'm just trying to say that this is a perfect way to, this is part of our recommendation, to align the goals and the work and the effort so that eventually this will just become an anniversary issue. And every year at this meeting, everybody will know coming into it, people will be freshly elected. They'll know what, they have all their goals set out as part of their election process. So it's fresh in their mind, and it's a great way to kind of set the upcoming season of your service in your elected roles.
Right. How about recognizing that it's going to be very difficult for us tonight to come up with smart actions, right? Can we just get the three or 4 priorities kind of overarching, and then over the next couple of weeks we can come up with smart, or they have to be discussed with Brenny anyway, right? He has to come up with agreement. Maybe in that conversation, we can go backwards and forwards and help define and turn those overarching goals that we've described tonight into smart actions, right? We've got time to develop into smart, right?
Right, so we
Okay.
have the whole rest of the process.
I think we have a consensus on 3 of them.
Yeah.
If I'm hearing right.
And I also think that, we could also take, and I don't mind doing it, with even sitting down or talking with Jeannie about this
Right.
before our next meeting.
Yep.
And just rewatching this meeting on pac-tv and trying to see if I can come up with like a sentence or 2 for each of our
Okay.
consensus goals that we've kind of talked about for the last 45 minutes or so.
Can I bring up one more that is not perhaps something that would even require, but again, where we can always talk about things on our agenda.
Yep.
And where we're talking about goals and policies, but this is something that I saw on your list, Mike, because you passed yours out, and I also have on my list, and I think it's a good idea. It probably will not require much from the town manager, which is good, but I think it would be a good time to talk about asking our boards and committees each year to maybe the first meeting in April every year to reevaluate, refresh, review their charge, talk about it at your first open meeting, and also, and this is what reminded me that I wanted to talk about that, review a legal refresher, review your open meeting laws, review your conflicts of interest, recusal, executive sessions, attorney-client privilege, review all of those things once a year, and perhaps your goal or your board or committee also has goals to set. And again, this isn't requiring any of our town staff to do anything. It's just a policy that we can make that we're doing ourselves and will do ourselves, that I think, I think it would benefit everybody. I think it's a really good idea to do that once a year.
That's something we can do directly. We oversee all the appointed boards and commissions, so with the exception of library trustees, the assessors, and the planning board.
Yeah,
We can just tell them.
In fact,
this is what
you've-
you'll need
That's
to
what
do
I'd like
this.
to do.
Well, building on that, the Affordable Housing Trust has sent letters exactly that, their goals and objectives, and they're looking for support, and they like to come before the
Right,
board.
and I'm
They're-
not.
They're
I'm not-
already doing it.
I think,
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea. I think we all need to be reminded of what our role is. Some people have been on boards for a long time, and you
Yeah.
just need a good refresher, and I think would even benefit us.
Yeah, I
as
took
well.
my conflicts of interest training today for work, and I can tell you that I think a lot of folks would probably not understand that just being a volunteer on a committee, they're still held to the same
Yeah.
rules and under state law that all the elected officials have, and
So that's an easy one.
I think it's a good opportunity for everybody to kind of know what the rules are.
Mr.
Can I-
Chairman, I
can
don't
I
think
add
you,
one-
because I don't think you heard the rest of my thought a second ago.
Sure.
In terms of the priorities, the consensus, fiscal year '26 budget.
Yep.
As an overarching theme.
Yeah.
The beach, again,
The beach.
quotes, and comprehensive plan in some form.
Coastal resiliency.
With coastal I think that's a
Okay.
subsetting. I think that
The beach,
falls.
I
beach,
like
maybe
that
the
to
whole
be
story
separate.
about the
Oh,
beaches.
you want to be
if we
separate?
can-
I'm with you.
Absolutely.
Coastal resiliency, put the two together.
What?
Okay.
No, I think coastal resiliency should be on
I
its
think
own.
these is
Yeah,
stand on
I
its
think the
own.
problem is we are mixing the two, but.
Well, no, I think there's, again, all
Yeah,
right, well,
I
I'm
know,
going
I
to
hear
go into
ya.
the details, but.
All right.
I think the beach issue and coastal resiliency
I'm sorry,
issues.
I didn't mean to, I was adding
Are
stuff
different.
together as a thought process. Can I ask one final thing? I'd like to, I think what's missing for the board is it'd be really good to hold a town hall with the community. I think it would be good for us
That's
to.
a great idea. That's a great idea. But we have an open forum, and nobody comes, but I think it would be a great idea.
Sorry. So basically, once we get our goals and objectives and policies, share them first 15 minutes and then host a town hall, see what what are the town's priorities? What do we hear from our residents? So I would suggest adding that to maybe not specifically to Rennie's goals, but certainly to one of our objectives is to host a town hall.
You mean separate from a meeting?
Yeah.
Can I
Town
push
hall.
back on that just for a second? Let me
Sure.
play devil's advocate.
Yeah.
It's- Arguably, isn't that why we were elected? To raise those issues and have the pulse, so to speak, of the townsfolk?
Oh yeah, definitely. But I can tell for now is Amy gets more town pulse than I do. Maybe that's because I haven't been around the town long enough, and people know
Yeah.
it's easy to get hold of Amy, right?
Well, no, I
so
hear you.
again, I just how do I hear back from people? And again,
Yeah,
it's
well,
just
and I'm not trying to,
Uh-huh.
shut down something that we public.
No.
I think that's entirely appropriate. But I
Yeah.
think we're all pretty accessible.
Sure.
Folks, when they want to talk to us, we have an open forum. Just in terms of like an additional special meeting in terms of goals, number one, I'd be concerned if we had a whole room full of people saying they disagree with what we just talked about tonight, because I think these are all pretty
think
town-wide goals as far as I'm concerned. But that's fine. I don't want to get caught too far behind saying, we'll establish these as the goals subject to this other meeting, and then maybe they'll change.
no worries.
I don't know,
I'll
trying
retract.
to help Jeannie a little bit with
I'll retract.
the process.
I just threw it out for us. That's
Okay.
all. It's not part of Rennie's goals to host a town hall. We can, if we decide to do that, forget about it.
All right,
no
all
problem.
I think we encourage everybody to reach out and
Yeah.
we're always open.
Definitely.
Right.
Brian, did you have another goal? said you had-
No, it was beach related.
Oh, it was beach
So we talked
related.
about it.
So,
yeah.
budget, coastal resiliency, beach.
Yeah, so I just jotted down actually I have 5.
No.
How about capital planning?
Capital,
Well,
no.
I could, I can add that into.
Budget.
So if I were to take just what everybody's been saying here,
Yep,
just title them, fiscal year '26 budget.
yep,
2, beach, which would include improving access and exploring cost sharing with Plymouth. 3, advancing the comprehensive plan, maybe the first step here, updating the statuses of the action items. 4, advancing coastal resiliency projects.
Yeah.
And 5, advancing water quality projects. And I think within those, there's obviously the costs associated with it and seeking funding, things like that. But I think is that generally what people are saying here, or am I missing anything?
just throw that in there again, just capital planning,
Yeah,
long-term.
and
I think capital planning can be with the budget. Can that be part of the budget?
The task force?
Well, the
No,
task
that's
of
task.
Kind of married?
forecasting capital planning, I think, particularly in this year, is something that should dovetail with our fiscal year '26 budget discussion.
Just make sure that we're going to everybody's talking about operational, right? So this
Right.
it's operational. Anyway, just speak, when you talk about it, speak with Alec Chin and get his
No,
feedback.
yeah,
That's my only request.
I gotta
is
be honest
Speak
with
with
you.
Alec.
The bug in my ear was from him.
Yeah,
So,
good.
a year ago.
Good.
So, and I hear every town meeting says the same thing.
Say the same thing.
And
So
I
let's-
just think it's something that's been, but I agree. I think it's part of this number one priority that
But
I
I want
think
to
we all
make sure
have.
I'm understanding what, is the capital planning budget, the capital budget planning, the same as the 5-year plan to fund some of the bigger prioritizations? Is that all in the same, are we talking about the same thing when we're talking about that?
I think
Yes,
so.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll leave it, I don't think so, but I'll leave it. That's fine, speak with Alec Chen, and he'll.
Yeah, and Mary.
Speak with Alec.
She's boss.
Yep,
So,
yep.
no, I think that's, I don't know, those are the 5, is there any of those 5 that thematically we're talking about here? Okay. I can probably talk with Jeannie and see if we can put these into a sentence, and maybe we can
Sure.
just finalize them by consensus at the next meeting? Would that get us within the 2-week window?
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, if I can just ask, since we have the
course.
benefit of our finance director, and I realize we're setting goals at a strategic level, but as they will ultimately cascade down, a number of them to you, is there anything that you would add or caution or recommend as we think about our directions to the town manager, as they might influence what you can or can't do practically?
In terms of implementing, being able to.
And capacity.
Yeah.
And your
physically
capacity.
implement them.
Yeah.
Just, yeah.
I think, I'm sure the town manager has feedback on each of them. I'm sitting here gathering my thoughts as well. I think it would be more appropriate for you guys, like you said, like, to have the board's reaction this evening compiled into a list, and then we can give you some feedback on whether some of them are doable or not.
Okay.
I think just listening to the board's conversation tonight, I'm just going to highlight one glaring issue that comes to my mind. If water quality is the number one priority or one of the top 5 priorities, we know that is a minimum of $100 million
Exactly.
ask.
Yep.
Just to deal with water quality.
Yep.
That's in excess of our entire annual budget.
Yep.
And so to be able to address that in any reasonable amount of time is going to be a stretch when we're already looking at operational limitations. So there's going to have to be a balance. Yeah.
For sure, yeah, okay.
So I can tell you right now, we can't deal with PFAS in 1 year. It's unreasonable to think that that's going to happen.
Yeah, and I don't think, that was our.
Any of us
No,
think
see,
that would be a
3 or
reasonable
4
goal.
years at least.
Yeah, there might be components that are
Yeah.
deliverable within the year,
Yeah.
but it just in terms of the overall policy, strategy, and direction, these are sort of the overall themes that we have, but, and not to put you on the spot, and I,
No. Well, and I'm sort of sitting here, and maybe this isn't the appropriate time to sort of give you my feedback, but, when we talk about the beach, and in my short time here, I've had a lot of conversations about the beach. And I'm hearing conflicting information from this very board with respect to the beach in particular. And so on one hand, we talk about wanting to have more access to the beach. We talk about wanting to address our revenue loss situation with respect to the beach. And then we also want to agree that the revenue loss is not the highest priority because it's a barrier beach.
No, never, no.
No, I'm sort of summarizing
Okay.
conversations that have happened over the past several months of me being here, not just this evening. And so I'm getting mixed feedback, mixed messages, and mixed priority from this board about specific issues. That one in particular
Okay.
is an example.
thank you for that, it's important for us to know.
And I think it's evolving as we get more information, and also as the community gives us some feedback. I mean, I think for a lot of folks at town they speak up at town meeting, they spoke up at the forum a November ago. And then we have also very important meetings about what DVR is doing for the beach. But you're right, there is conflicting, but I think on the issue of how to make that a deliverable, like a goal for our town manager. It's tricky if we're not really all saying the same thing. So maybe that's something I can try to incorporate, a varying view.
And none of these issues that come before you guys are simple. They're all multifaceted.
Yeah.
And as you've just described and discussed tonight, so.
Yeah.
That's an interesting observation. I'm thinking about what you said about our priorities, or maybe different messages you're getting about the beach.
Yeah.
But I think that the overarching message is that we all agree that, I think we all want more access. We all want to protect the beach because it's our barrier.
Yes, that's it right
We
there.
all want it to make more money.
Yeah.
We all agree, it's just maybe some of us come at it from,
We also don't own it.
Wait,
so.
we also don't own it. But it's actually right, we want everything.
We do, we want it all.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe
We do.
that's
Therein
the,
lies the challenge.
that's the, so it's not competing, is we want everything.
right,
Right.
it's not, we want it all.
It's not competing, we want everything.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep,
All right. Can we move
I'll put
on?
that as number one.
we want everything.
All right.
The goal.
Does anybody, just before I volunteer myself for trying to put together a few sentences here, does anybody else want to have any input on that, or without, we can't violate open meeting law, but, if you guys don't think that's, if you folks don't feel like that's the right thing to do, what I was proposing is maybe we put together, these 5 goals, and then we can finalize them at the next meeting, either vote on them or say there's a general consensus here and move on.
I think it's great, and I appreciate that you would want to take the time to do that. I do think it is going to be helpful if you can, kind of use the formula, the how, when, and desired outcome. I think if you,
Okay.
if you can put some time frames in there, I think it makes it more doable for the town manager and everybody involved, so.
Yeah. That's what the SMART goal is.
Yeah.
It's, all right, specific, measurable, actionable,
Reasonable.
reasonable, and timely.
Very good.
Exactly.
Knowing
That
that
was
not all
close.
of these are going to be all one-year goals,
No.
No, they're not, no.
No.
Oh, no.
which is good. And we have an assortment.
Yep. Yeah, PFAS wasn't built in a day.
No.
That was Rome.
And again, I don't want the town to think that the other issues that we're facing are not of high importance. They
Correct.
are. I think we're just trying to bite off some,
Some of the big ones.
yep.
And a lot of our other issues are making their way on agendas anyway.
Yeah.
I
Help them
mean,
break the logjam. That's all.
yeah. All right. Without, I almost had, does anybody from the audience have any other questions or comments? I know it's getting late. All right, with that, I'll move on. We have
Town manager.
town
report.
manager's report, just kidding. One-day liquor license requests. We have one.
Did we have any presentation on this?
No.
Or no?
No.
Okay. I move that Ms. Samantha Allen, as representative of La Mom LLC, is granted a one-day wine and malt license for their Wine and Wills seminar on Thursday, April 11th, 2024, from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. at La Mom, 5 Chestnut Street, Duxbury, contingent upon the conditions of the license.
The one thing can I go into discussion here?
Of course.
So I just wanted to, when I read that, right, I wanted to understand where it was being held, right, and what it was about. So this is a business that's hosting an event to promote its business
Correct.
at a business location in a business district.
Yes.
So I just want to make sure it's
She's done
clear.
this many times.
No, and it's
Yeah.
good.
And I think-
Because there's other people, maybe, let's just leave it there, make it
No,
very
I think you make a fair point.
very clear that this ask is for a business in a business district. That's all.
And I think
She'll
about
get
a
off
year
my
or so
soapbox.
ago, our town manager made sure
Yeah.
that if folks were going to do such events like this one, a fun-filled evening of sipping wines, learning about the importance of estate planning,
Yep,
that as innocuous an event it is, they need to come before us and ask for a
Sure.
liquor license.
that's right. And it's in the right place. It's a business in a business district
Correct.
asking for this license.
So, not just this one.
And
Yep.
I do always wonder about making legal decisions while drinking, but, it's America.
Second.
Second. All those in favor, oops, sorry.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next on the agenda is
Minutes.
Minutes. This is from an executive session minutes from February 15th, 2024. I know I need to abstain from this, and I believe someone else does.
I do too, I believe.
And I had one edit. It was just I corrected a word from the present tense to the past tense.
I must admit, when I read through it, it needs some serious editing. Thank you. Yeah,
Okay.
Other edits?
I had some other edits
Oh,
too
okay.
that I sent to Nancy earlier, so.
yeah.
Ah,
As amended, yeah.
Were any of them substantive?
Yes.
All right, so we'll have to see it
Do
again.
we have them?
Well, no, I mean,
We'll send them to her.
Substantive, I mean, or editorial? Are they like was's to words?
no, just read, it just, it wasn't changing the meaning, right? But it read, okay, editorial.
They were editorial. Okay.
all right, well, in that case, I will move to approve the February 15th, 2024 Select Board Executive Session minutes with the contents, as amended, with the contents to remain confidential until the need has passed.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
You're supposed to abstain.
Oh,
Abstain.
abstain, sorry. It's late, I'm
Yeah,
tired.
Amy was an automatic pilot.
It was totally on automatic.
So
pilot.
now we have announcements.
Yeah, I'll get there.
I will pull it for. Here you go.
There we go. All right, thank you. Announcements. pac-tv is now the local scene. As of today, pac-tv is now on the local scene on YouTube. You can now watch previous meetings online within 48 hours at the YouTube channel, Duxbury Meetings-Local Scene streaming channel. Duxbury's government access channels are Comcast 9 and Verizon 39. Recreational shellfish. License applications are available on the town's website under online payments. Current season expires March 31st, 2024. Commercial shellfish license applications.
Well done.
Thank you. Commercial shellfish license applications will be available April 1st in the Select Board's office in Old Town Hall. You can apply only during the month of April, and applicants must be a Duxbury resident and have a Massachusetts commercial fisherman's permit showing, quote, endorsed shellfish, unquote. For more information, please contact the Select Board's office at 781-934-1100, extension 5402. 2024 dog licenses are available. Reminder, all dogs over the age of 6 months must be licensed annually. There will be a late fee in the amount of $25 assessed for each unlicensed dog as of April 1st. And finally, the next Select Board's meeting will be on Monday, April 1st, 2024 at 7 p.m.
Excellent. Nancy, is there any place that the public can find out about this new pac-tv? Are they done on TV?
No, they're still there.
Yeah.
It's just that they're putting all their video on demands
Yeah.
on YouTube.
Okay.
So when you go to pac-tv and follow the town, it says will fit on demand or, past videos appear on YouTube.
Okay. So just to reiterate, I know you don't have a microphone in front of you. Folks can learn more about this transition on the website for pac-tv.
pac-tv.org.
Yeah.
Pac-TV.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. I will entertain a motion.
Bonus
Nope.
shellfish.
Oh, bonus.
Nope, he's got to do it.
I was trying to let him off the hook.
He practiced with the previous announcement. Here it goes.
Jump right in.
All right, ready?
Bonus Selfish season.
Okay, I move that the Select Board declare a temporary bonus shellfish season for, 1, the commercial harvesting of soft shell clams for the month of April, and 2, the commercial harvesting of quahog clams for the month of April.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mike's still smiling.
I know. This Selfish season.
And before we sign off, thank you guys for a lovely evening at the trivia night.
Ah,
The
yes.
other night, we all.
Yeah.
Fourth place.
Fourth place, yeah, that's right.
Yep, your daughter was very helpful with
Yes.
the math questions.
Yes,
She was
got mom's
lovely.
brain, thank
I
God.
think,
And I enjoyed myself. It was a
Yes.
very,
And we had
very
a
nice
gr-
time.
we
And
had a great
And we
appeal.
didn't come in last.
Great appeal.
We had an excellent appeal.
We had an excellent appeal, that's exactly right. And
Yep.
last time we came penultimate last, so we made a big
Oh, all
improvement.
right.
It was a nice evening, and we thank all the
Rotary Club
Rotary
and,
and the Senior Center, and it was very nice.
Raised over $10,000 for the Good Neighbor Fund.
Yep.
Excellent.
All right, I move to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.